Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. Just to make you aware, this podcast may contain some explicit/offensive language, and if that's not your thing, you don't have to listen, but I have given you a warning. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
You don't know the half of it, but anyway. I'm skating on the thinnest ice known to man.
He said, and they put a poison in the tank that just instantly kills them. He went, we've run out of it, so we cut their heads off with shovels.
Suddenly, bang! The whole boat exploded.
Take your sort of 8-inch long piranha and imagine that at 4, 5, maybe 6 feet.
I said, I've revived your dead fish. F off, he said. You haven't.
That was just humongous. It was... I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
I'm just battling this fish out, and I know it's a black man. I'm saying I'll never be a naughty boy again.
If you catch fish and you return them to the water, then you are my brother.
Myles Gibson, welcome to the Nash podcast, mate, and thank you very much for inviting me to this little piece of lakeside Cotswolds heaven, mate.
You're welcome, mate. Yeah?
We've had a lovely morning, mate, watching the water in front of your new place, and we'll no doubt get on to talking about this whole setup, which is lovely. But I'm going to apologise at the start of this podcast, not for telling you to put the mic in your face, but for punishing you, mate, for a long time.
No, it's been good. It's been nice to catch up, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Has it? I've been on at you, mate. Haven't I?
More on at the minute.
We
wound her up, definitely.
How many times I text you to come on this podcast?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. It's been a while coming, hasn't it? Definitely.
How many texts? What are you saying? Double figures?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't mean to be rude and not replying. Sometimes, you know, it's busy.
He's just gone. Who's this guy again? But genuinely, mate, the reason my persistence, I'm happy that it's paid off, but it was there is because you've caught some incredible fish. But not only that, everybody who I've spoke to within the industry has sort of always given you the sort of little nod to say, he's a proper one. You've been on a lot of waters, probably before they were popularised in terms of media or before a lot of the fish became popularised. And you've always been very much sort of quite secretive with your angling. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, definitely not trying to blow places up or, you know, I suppose learning the hard way is the only way, you know, as you sort of fishing lakes, much younger, and you were generally going home and sort of uploading your results almost instantly. You know, you weren't kind of recognising the damage that you were causing to your own fishing. Obviously, there'll be lads that are sort of sat back, much more experienced lads waiting for the times of year. You know, they see them catches coming out and they're waiting for, I suppose, idiots like myself back then, you know, to now's the time, boys. So, you know, you were always affecting your own fishing by doing that.
Yeah.
Or I certainly felt. And the idea of making lakes busy, I'd never like someone to think, oh, that lake was sound until what's it caught that fish and blew it up. Which you're always going to get people saying, but, you know, I'd never like that associated with like myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I'd always be very careful about certain captures, you know, caught some lovely ones from nice places. There's certainly never been no articles written about them or any stories as such, you know, it's more a picture in the press, more so to help a bait company that's helped me out, you know?
Okay.
So yeah, I've always been sort of quite careful as in what and when to post and, you know what I mean, share sort of like what you've caught. Definitely.
I've definitely, seen that. I've seen chapters of you and bits on media in sort of more recent times, which have been mega. Like, I'm just thinking back to sort of your piece on Dinton that you did a while ago, and we'll talk about that place. That's been brilliant. The fish you've caught from there have been amazing. And the way you've depicted it all within that has been brilliant as well, mate. For me, I think what I want to talk about is this whole idea of sort of you as a person. We could not talk through every single capture because there's so many and so many different places, but your mindset as an angler, you catch or you set yourself onto venues which are not easy. You're interested in what type of fishing, what sort of sparks your fire, and within that, your sort of drive to accomplish them has always been something that people have talked to me about with regards to you, your sort of mindset, focus, and your driven nature. Talk to me about where that all comes from, how that all plays out, mate.
I suppose I've always been all or nothing. If I'm doing something, you know, I give it my absolute everything. You know, you've everything out the fishing. It also, it's leaving the pond with you, as in it's in your mind. And then sort of, you know, what fishing for as well. A lot of they've got to fit the bill. It's not just got to be a big one. History sort of behind it, the older ones. I mean, it's always nice to find a pond where that's your target. It's got a handful of real nice ones as well. But, you're working towards the target. Whereas, like Black Swan, there were so many nice ones. It's nice, like I say. I mean, like at the moment, I fish in a pond. There's one big one in the mind, constantly.
A bit closer, sorry, mate. The old
Yep,
mic's
you're
a
right.
bit closer, sorry.
There's one big one in that lake at the minute. So it's, a handful of other nice ones. So that sort of fishing, it really does. It ticks a lot of the boxes for me. And also it's the quieter sort of venues. You mentioned about fishing lakes before they become busy.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to keep a stock or what's going in what lakes, in the sense of stockings. Yeah, it's just, it's recognising what fish have been where, and also waiting lists. It might be a case of 3 or 4 years to get a ticket.
Yeah.
Well, if in those 3 or 4 years that lake's to change, from going to having a handful of big fishing to having 15, 20 carp over £40, a handful of them push through to £50, then waiting, you can't get a ticket. They're closed. There's 100 on the list, they're shut.
Yeah.
Not in this lifetime, unless a very, drastic change of circumstances, or you're going to get a ticket on them lakes. Referring to Dinton at the moment,
Yeah, of course.
But whereas you go back 5-6 years ago, 2 or 3 years waiting list you're in. That's the, so it's recognising what's coming through and where and the potential of what lakes, and keeping a record of that.
So you've always been, in terms of that network of what's going in where, you must have your finger on the pulse there. Because as you said, you've got to be, especially now really, you've got to be well ahead of the game. There's so much that's publicised. There's so many waters. There's so many popular waters that if you're too late, aren't you? You said there. So for you, your intel, where you get your information from, how does that work? Is it people you know? Is it place?
It's more than likely, it's people that you meet along the way. You're fishing them sort of venues, you're meeting a lot of like-minded people, and they may have spent years themselves fishing the busy pits, and they might have found that little slice of heaven that they're never going to ruin. But through talk and chatter on the bank, over a brew, and as you get to know people and looking at people's captures, and then you're hearing a few stories, that's all it could take to spark an interest to think, that might be a nice little journey after this pond. And then it kind of becomes a bit of an obsession, you've got that previous background. You always kind of build up a picture of something in your mind before you actually see it. So when you actually get there, and it's nice and it's either nothing like it was or you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. Referring to the pit that I'm fishing at the moment, I'd never seen it. I'd pay £500 for my ticket, a couple of pictures of the carp in there. But right, it's time to sort of go and fish it. And from talking to the lad that got me the ticket, if you like, I was under the impression the lake was some sort of 35 acres, massive barrow-mission. I built this picture in my mind, and I got there, and it was like 13 acres, weedy as hell, part almost behind your swim. It was, am I going to like it? Am I not?
Yeah.
4 trips in, and it's kind of really under my skin. I'm loving it. But it's, like I say, it's that building up a picture, the imagination of it. It's all part of the love of it. It is for me.
Part of that journey. I get it. Do you ever go to a place, get the intel, think, right, okay, those fish are in there, get there, and it's not what you would want in terms of fishing? Or does the sort of drive that you have to catch those fish overtake it, and you sort of you sacrifice that for maybe somewhere that might be busier than you think, or a different sort of setup or type of fishing than you think?
Yeah, definitely. Every lake, every sort of target, should we say, like every lake, it will be different, and it'll host a difference of like challenges, whether it be restrictions or boaters and weedy pit. Going back to Dinton in the daytime, through the kids' holidays, there's 100 odd boats on the water from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5. It's weedy. You can't keep your rods in the water, you're going to get wiped out. When you're driving 180 mile, 190 mile to get to the lake, and you're literally limited to the nights, do you know what I mean? It takes a lot to sort of push through and keep going, because you can't exactly, if you've got 3 nights, 72 hours fishing, you're not getting there and fishing for 72 hours.
Yeah.
You might get 24 hours fishing, 30 hours fishing, half your time straight away, logistically, because of that lake. Then other lakes you might be fishing for a big, and it might be bank space, a big lake I fished in the Cotswolds. It was like 120 acres, 30 carp in there. We had access to literally a quarter of one bank. You couldn't access any other banks, privately owned, wood yards and so on. massive of out of bounds, handful of carp. Half the time you felt like you weren't, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
But the more a lake puts you through, whether it be the blanking, the graft, whatever it be, the more it puts you through, it's just working more towards there's a story behind it. Therefore, the big and that moment when you get that, it's just amplified so much more. The more shit you've gone through, the more you appreciate and the more you buzz off the big one.
Yeah.
I'd say I've definitely done it more times than not. Like as a rule, I have to go to a lake, learn it, I'll catch everything in the lake, and then I'll catch the one that I want to catch. That's normally, I have to catch them twice, 3 times. And then I get the one that I want. But on a handful of occasions, it's happened where I've gone and, a nice big old lever in Cheshire. I'd planned up till Christmas, I had big plans. I spent a lot of time thinking about how I was going to approach my fishing on there. And like I say, I was all planned up from when I went on in August. I was planned up till Christmas to plan when to apply what, where, how I was going to do what. And 4 nights in, I caught it. I was just literally looking at the net, just like, no way. Like, bloody hell. So, sometimes it comes good and sometimes you're grafting for them. Equally, it's still a buzz looking at that carp in the net, but it was nothing like the emotion felt 5 years chasing the snowboard, the work involved in catching the Tatton Common, and them sort of captures, were just above and beyond,
They're what resonates more with you, that struggle, that
Definitely,
sort of...
Yeah, the more you've got to go through, I kind of thrive off it. It's the work involved. If you want to be that one step ahead, then you have to really dig in and get to work, now whether that be lead working and baiting and, looking, just the more that you can physically of yourself put into it, when you start getting stuff back, it's a real buzz. It's a real buzz when you start getting that back. Equally though, because you've given yourself so much of something.
Yeah.
It's not always good. There's plenty of times when, I can remember, 6, 8, 10 trips in, fishing 3 nights a week, that's 20, 30 nights. Nothing. On lakes where you feel like other times of year, that sort of time, you've had results. Every year is different, but it's keeping that momentum and keeping a going, I suppose, you know what I mean? And that end goal is what drives the buzz. Looking in the net, it's the one,
Yeah.
That's what it was about, yeah.
But that journey seems very important for you.
All about the journey, man.
Yeah, definitely so. That element of sort of going through something, maybe also within that, the actual carp at the end of it, which you just referenced there. But the harder that is, the more that goes into it, the more that resonates with you. You talked about that with those captures that you sort of hinted at there. With regards to the carp, now, obviously a lot of the carp that you've caught, incredible. Like, there's a history to them. A lot of the northern fish that we're going to go on to talk about, a couple of you named there, but they have a real sort of history within the area. Some of them are more unknown, or some of them at the time you've caught them have been at the very sort of infancy of where now they are known. For you, talk to me about a perfect carp. What is the sort of holy grail when it comes to that? Because there's different things that excite different people. Has it got to have a specific heritage? Has it got to have a specific look? Has it got to have a specific, I don't know, difficulty?
Definitely. I mean, referring to like the perfect carp, Mary would probably be the one.
Would that be the one?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Mary. I mean, just an incredible old carp, incredible old carp. But also, where it lived, logistically, what would be involved, how much of yourself you'd have to give. Life almost on hold when you read old stories about it. I mean, we're fishing similar pits with similar stocks. You're going long times without even seeing one, let alone catching one.
Yeah.
But that, it's a top. You are striving for the best buzz in you. It's almost a drug. Once you've experienced and you've given so much of yourself to something and you've achieved, you've achieved what you've tried so hard to achieve and you've experienced that high, you know what I mean? It has to be something on that level. It's like you're chasing a drug, aren't you, at the end of the day? That's what we're all doing. We are all chasing that feeling.
Mm.
So when you've experienced something of such a high where it's leaving you for literally 2 days, buzzing your tits off, you can't believe what you've caught, all the work involved, can't get to sleep, just reliving that moment over and over and over and over again. You want to feel it again.
Yeah.
And then, so you're picking places that are going to involve all of you. Do you know what I mean? And more to achieve that feeling. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Of course. And the challenges you're taking on there are massive. Does it ever get to the point where that sacrifice, that journey, that drive, as we would probably call it, does that ever spill over into sort of you having to give a lot of sacrifice or into other areas of your life, for example, work, family, stuff like that?
I mean, from sort of leaving school, worked 40 hours. Well, I didn't. I left school, saved up a bit of money, had a year off fishing. That soon ran out. It was never funded. If you need things in life.
Yeah.
Go and work. So, I was labouring basically 40 hours a week for quite a few years, then went into block paving for a few years. Fishing every possible opportunity I could have got driving, so I'd be fishing like a Tuesday night overnighter, Wednesday night, Thursday at home so you won't be tired, and Friday night, Saturday night fishing, as much as you physically could. And then, you're starting to wanting to fish sort of further afield, and that's when I started my own business, like landscape. I was working for a guy, seeing what he was getting paid, and I was basically doing the work, and thought, well, set up my own business and do this.
Yeah.
Did so. We wanted to be good mates at the time. We were both able to go fishing. Basically, you used to go fishing on a Sunday morning, come back from work on a Wednesday, and be working Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we could both earn in them days, more than what we could working 40 hours a week for somebody.
Yeah.
So at the time,
Brilliant.
Yeah. It fitted the bill. Obviously, it then got to a point where mate, we had more bills, little and come along, etc. He went off and did his own thing. I think it's more the winter time as well. Obviously, not a great call for that sort of work through the winter, and having a few more responsibilities from me than myself at the time. He needed that guaranteed money every month. So he was off doing something else. I carried it on. And then it always kind of stuck to that. I'd always, I don't want to say work. Obviously, I had to take sacrifices. My fishing had to take sacrifices at the beginning. Work. We had to get to work, build up a clientele sort of thing. It was a lot of garden maintenance and stuff, hedge cutting, lawn maintenance, 20 quid, next one, 20 quid.
Yeah.
But, you could get 10 or 15 of them done in a day, and through that, you're doing all right money. Certainly enough to start going further afield, fishing Oxford, Stoneacres, them sort of places. 60 quid a week in fuel and your food and your bits of bait, you're getting your bait at field test price at the time. It adds up, it's expensive,
Definitely.
Week in, week out. And obviously the more you sort of go in them places and experiencing in the driving, the travelling, to start off with, I can remember getting me Oxford ticket. Well, first of all, started like travelling to the Cotswolds. It's 130 mile away. It's a long way away. It's 2.5 hours. But when it becomes part of your routine, it's nothing, is it? You think, 5 hours there and back? It's 24 hours in a day. If you break it down like that, it's nothing to get there. I've got 3 days. So that's how I started looking at it, really. And I was always just earning enough money to get. It was always just earning enough money to get by.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd go fishing. I had enough money to. I had a little mortgage at the time, and pay your bills, etc. Never nothing spare, shall we say? It was just getting by. But getting to the lake was number one. I had to be at that lake. That consistency. Even if you had 4 days, 5 days work when you got back, it had to be done before Sunday, because I'm going back Sunday. That's the mentality of, and I'd be there till 10 o'clock at night working until I'm going back on Sunday. I have to be back, back on them spots. If I break that routine, someone else might slide in, it could be all up. I need to be there. That's the thought
so
process.
A bit like an athlete who trains, and even though they don't want to train or they'll get up, they'll still go because they know that's part of it, isn't it?
I have to. You are riding. I'm going to refer to Stoneacres again here at the time. Chocker was at its peak at the time. Talk about the goose.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, you've got to tell me that story.
Chocker was at its peak at the time. He's 50. I think Sean caught in my first year. I had a ticket at £53 in November. Yeah. Just an incredible carp. But equal to that, I was fishing the same sort of area, week in, week out, trying to bait a zone, 7 or 8 regulars, doing the same thing. 1 or 2, flitters, if you're out and that swim's free, they're in there, Most of the other syndicate would respect.
Yeah.
It was kind of working like that. So if you missed a week, is that, you've done it there. You could come the week after and make your boy, you're fishing for a big fish and there's a few very good anglers on there fishing for them. So it was that consistency, especially, a couple of them, had caught it and dropped off throughout the year. 8 was 6, and you're thinking, this is me, I need to up it 4 nights a week now. coming into November, obviously it suited the work, that sort of thing. Now, obviously, I just maximised it as much as I could. Like I say, it's all or nothing.
That is some drive, mate. That is it's easy to say that. It's definitely not easy to do that with regards to that. Was it fair to say that obviously carp fishing was the main priority and obviously it was paramount in your mind? Was there any times throughout life where that has been difficult to maintain for whatever reason? And where has that left you? Because there are times in your life where stuff happens, or you've got a missus to balance, or you've got stuff where it's hard to do 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week.
100%. I can remember having a conversation with my mate who I used to work with, saying we started the landscaping business. And I was sort of, I think I was fishing Leicester at the time, a place called Charnwood, and then Stoneacres. We're probably like a season or two into that sort of, travelling on a regular basis, and you feel it on, your bank, you do. Certainly I did at the time. I can remember chatting, having a good conversation with him, and I was just like, it's either the point where I carry on with this fishing, I go all in with this fishing and see if I can not make it pay, but make it to a point where, you're not paying for your bait, and you might put a few quid in your pocket and you're not spending all your money on hooks. The terminal tackle that you're going through fishing a lot and the bait that you're using. If you could take that cost out of it, and I could just do a little bit of that, and I could aid it for me,
Yeah.
I took that opportunity too. Or do I just fish when I can and give my business the all and just, money. It was one or the other. And I just sort of, well, if I could try and do both. And that's what I thought. There's no way in a million years. If I stopped fishing, I'd be lying to myself. It'd only come to a point. I couldn't stop fishing. I couldn't stop that style of fishing. Once I got a taster for it, seeing what was out there, and like I say, chatting with other great anglers and seeing some other amazing pictures of fish. There's a lot out there, and I wanted to get involved in that. So, yeah, I just all out with the fishing, and the work was kind of. I'd just cram as much in when I was get back. Like I say, you'd be trying to do 4 days work in 3 or 5, it was ridiculous. And I suppose I've always been like, I feel like I am working 7 days a week. Like when I say fishing ain't chill, like you get to fishing and, it's graft. You work, you're looking, you're working, you're putting a lot of lead work in. There's a lot of lead work. You're trying to map places out, prep areas, learn everything as quickly as you can. It's almost like, if you're on a busiest sort of lake, and you get an opportunity where there's no one down that end, use it. Map it out in your head, you know what I mean? It'll take down sticks with you. You need to know every little area. Because it's them learning along the way, them little clips, open the book, that put you in that situation that, that'll lead to more bites. So yeah, that obsessiveness, I suppose. It's always been there, and it'll always be there. It gets worse. The drive, honestly, it gets worse, not better.
What do you mean? As you've gone on, it's got worse?
Yeah, I suppose like fishing around a lot of lads, like say on Redesmere, they'd be like, oh, super keen, they always said like, I was super, super keen, be there, middle of winter, 50-inch brolly, living on a pot noodle, like literally just obsessed with it, obsessed with it. Oh, that'll wear out, you wait, life will take over. I suppose it has in a sense, I've got a lot more responsibilities, but, if I don't need to set an alarm. If I'm going fishing at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm struggling to go sleep the night before. I'm excited. I'm buzzing.
Yeah.
And if I didn't want to do something, I wouldn't do it, So, like I say, you see it as much as trying to reach that end goal. We're on about it's the journey. It's the build up and what you're making of it,
I get it.
You might end up chucking 20 kilo of bait in a corner. You might never put a rig in it. But it's just in case. You know what I mean? It's just in case that one time we see that biggin in that area. It's over for him. We're ready. It's kind of, you're building up everything all over the place.
You can see just when you're talking about it, the passion and sort of, that drive being there, mate. That's
it's a hunting instinct, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's levels to it, isn't there? I'm trying to think of that in the context of like, I've got a family now. I don't think I could ever, in my head, legislate going for 3 nights a week now. I've got 3 kids. I need to be home. It's different. It's different for everyone. I completely get it. But when you speak to any carp angler, they'll be like, oh, I'd love to, and this is not working in the industry, this is just generally, they'll be like, I'd love to be a full-time angler. But the reality of being a full-time angler is a different thing. The reality of going and trying to catch these special fish as well as working to balance it and have the drive to be able to accomplish it, that's another thing as well, mate. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, like a lot of that style of fishing, you're not, there's a lot of hours sat on your own behind stationary rods, on them sort of sneakier pitch. You're getting your rods out middle of the day, not wanting to disturb anything for the evening for a chance maybe in the morning. That's 18 hours sat there twiddling your thumbs. Do you know what I mean? It's not... Yeah. It's... So you need a lot of thought process, along that. There's got to be, like I say, that end goal, that thought of it. There's a lot of thinking time in them hours.
Definitely.
So with that, it's putting all them hours to use. I'm trying to maximise
that.
3 nights a week is a lot of time. And like you're saying, if I had a young family, if I'd had kids come along and stuff like that, no way in a million years I'll be doing 3 nights a week now. My fishing would be local. I've left a few lakes, local, home with some grape carp in it. Days only, They'll fit the bill perfectly. Have it come a time when you've got a couple of young ones and you can't get out.
Yeah.
But at the moment, that isn't the case. So it's...
You've got the chance.
Yeah. And I will, like I say, I love it, so...
You've nearly caught them all by now anyway, mate. It's job done.
Not quite. Not quite.
Let's go back to a starting point. A point, obviously, I live up north, but you are godlike, mate, in terms of up north. You won't say because you're very modest and understated, but you pretty much, in terms of a lot of northern boys, are seen as was well up there, if not one of the best in terms of the area. You've caught pretty much a lot of the fish that are synonymous with the north. I wanted to talk about, you've referenced the leather, and we'll probably talk about that at some point, but your starting point, weren't you fishing, again, you've said it, Redesmere, from a ridiculously young age, weren't you on there?
Yeah, 15.
15?
Yeah. Well, yeah, last year of school, and I was fishing on Redesmere.
Which is a prestigious, like Frank Warwick's, obviously everyone knows the story of Frank on there.
Don't get me wrong, I lived in a swim called the Pines. It's not a very popular, it's done carp in the past, but it's not a very popular zone. Sort of lived in there, you were very, I don't know what's the right word for it really, you felt well out of place.
Did you? Yeah.
Well out of place, young kid. And that's what you referred to as young kid, wasting a swim. I've heard, you heard it said and you were, just sit in the Pines and sort of, watch it go on, and then you kind of meet one or two lads and I suppose take you under the wing, so to speak. And amazing lake. Again, a very historical lake, and met some lifelong friends on there. Still speak to daily.
What led you to go there at that age? What was it? Was it the history element, or was it the fact that it was local?
Being, at school, everything. I'm bad now, but at the time, everything was just ridiculous. Carp obsessed.
Yeah.
Every magazine that came out, I was buying, planner and everything at school, covered in cutouts of carp. Carp. Absolutely obsessed with it. And obviously with reading those sort of, all their magazines, obviously anything in that area reads me, it was just down the road. So it'd be of reference, you'd be reading it and you'd be looking and Gaz Farham's articles, Martin Allerton's articles, and you'd see people in there like Mark the Bull, Brian the Miner, Predator Ray, like the old school boys. In the old mainline sections at Carp Talk, in Carp World and stuff like that it was. So you'd seen all these, you'd read about them and seen them in the magazines with 30-pounders, massive fish, massive. At the time, huge. Like, I can remember, me and my friends used to catch around 5 20-pounders a year, fishing on the flashes and the farm sort of pits.
That's still pretty. That's good.
Yeah,
going,
5 20s in a year, up to 23, 25. Caught the friendly mirror out the farm. 25 he was. But yeah, to that jump, 30-pounders were in the mirror. Read about it. Fishing on boundary. It was quite a tricky water boundary. 60, 70 carp in there. But my nan and my granddad used to do he had a workshop there, doing a lot of woodwork and stuff. My nan and my auntie used to work in the shop, so the connections to the lake. My mum used to pass working in Knutsford. So quite often I get dropped off, be there all day fishing. And as you do, young kid, mithering the hell out of everyone, wanting to learn everything, and met a chap on there called Barry Big Tent. That's what he later became known as, Barry Big Tent.
Barry Big Tent.
Lovely old bloke. Showed me, he fished on Redesmere. So obviously having read about it, Redesmere? When he showed me pictures of all these fish and... for hours we'd talk, rigs, showing me rigs and all stuff like that. And like I say, hours spent with Barry Big Tent. And he said, well, why don't you get your ticket? Junior will get straight on. Come fishing with me as long as you're accompanied by an adult. And we did it. You know, did everything that you needed to do, sent all off application form, it's come through. I opened the 1st of June, Duffers fortnight. If you've not done your work parties, relied on the 16th.
Right.
So it's on the 15th. Tomorrow, yeah. Me and Barry, yeah. Going on. First trip on the Mere, you know, I can't believe it. And I'd gone for a previous walk down when I first got my ticket. You know, it was known as the best anglers around that area fishing on the Mere. And you know, I've got my dad to run me down there. You know, I'm only 15-year-old kid. I've gone walking across the meadow like me and my dad, and see a brolly. There's a couple of brollies on the meadow, and one in the swim water was called the Snag. Walked over there, put my head in. All right, mate, any joy? You got your ticket? Who are you? Straight away.
Yeah.
I ain't caught nothing. Do you not think you're a bit young to be fishing on here? First person I spoke to was literally having me off like that. You know, I stood there with my dad. My dad's like, oh, yeah, no, it's an hard lake this is, mate. You should probably go and spend a few years, you know, fishing elsewhere, learn how to catch a few carp, get a bit of experience under your belt, and then come back on it. He's like, oh, right. I knew it was sort of, you know, I'd been carp fishing for probably 6 years or something like that, 7 years at the time, you know, caught my first one at 9. Thought I'd been around a little bit, you know, caught a few.
I'm ready,
mate. Yeah, no, far from it. Like, basically, like, caught one that first year. But
You caught one?
I caught one that first year, yeah.
How'd you catch that?
Well, I lost one, first of all.
Oh.
I can remember it, never forget it. We were, June, it's probably August, September time, met a couple of lads, managed to get some bait a bit cheaper, some Mick Ball, snail and shell it was going in at the time. Got 10 kilo of it, you know, I never had 10 kilo in my life.
There's a lot in it when
I was buying it in kilo bags, you know, 10 quid, activate. Got 10 kilo in the freezer. You know, I broke it down into 500 gram bags. That was trips, you know, 4 bags, 2 kilo. You know, could bait up and all sorted. And I'm waiting for my dad to pick me up, fishing in the beach, swim down the road end. And I got this double snail and shell bottom bait across. Saw a fish jump the day before. I think looking back now, it's a big long ESP, 15-pound ghost upling. I don't know, I've got a weird memory. I can remember little intimate detail.
Cool. I love it, mate.
But remember the old Fox Series 4, like a really long shank, yeah?
Yeah.
One of them, bit of silicone on, double bottom bait, wallop. Sat there in my bed waiting for my dad to pick me up, thinking, you know, probably done 10 weekends, nothing. Rod just ripped off. Absolute ripped off. Scarp. Grabbed it, you know, we're on. Stripping line off me, it's headed off down towards the meadow bank. And never played a fishing waders or anything like that. So got the waders on, you know, and there's a big reed off to your right. In the water, it's kited on me. I'll never forget it. Pumping this fish back. And eventually, you know, it's rose in front of me there. It sort of rolled over. It's one of the linears. You know, it was either the original linear or the Cape Sun linear. It was a 30-pound linear. I could see it right in front of me. There, gasping. My net's behind me on the bank because obviously it's gone round the reed bed. So I've gone back to get my net. I've managed to get my net, shuffle back in front of me. The bloody thing's powered off again. Hook's pulled.
Oh, that is horrendous.
Horrendous. Like, yeah, as you can imagine, absolutely devastated. Went back with that loss. Oh, weeks and weeks and weeks, honestly, to get over it. Because I'd seen it, you know, it's 30-pounder.
In your head, that's bad as well because of the sheer
worst
obsession and passion you have of it.
So it wasn't until actually October, you know, I got a couple of friends, made a few friends on there by then. Blokes, really, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been dropped off down the Shallows car park by my dad. And it was quite a barrow mission up to the stream. A couple of mates on the stream. Anyway, yeah, swim free. Just loading up the barrow on the way down there. Sees one jump out. October time. It's down the Shallows, you know, it's only a couple of foot of water. That's like, to me, like, you know, at that sort of stage, you're thinking they're like the deeper water going into the what are they doing up here? Anyway, stops. Another one's come out. Big plumes of bubbles. Another one's come out. I was like, got a fish here. And I'm just whacking 2 pineapple pop-ups as far as I could towards them, throwing sticks on baits out. Rang my mate. I mean, again, you know, they're all down here. A few of them piled on down there. And yeah, the next day, 10 o'clock in the morning, ripped off, battle royale, mate in the waders, netted it. Yeah, 24-pounder, first Redesmere carp.
What a fish on there, mate.
Yeah, but then again, you know, having fished June till October, not caught carp. Do you know what I mean? Like, 15 years old, I used to get a couple out the lake at least, a couple out the pond.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So how much that meant to me, that catch, looking at the net, almost falling to bits.
Yeah, especially if you lost that other one as well.
Oh,
mate.
God, yeah. I had 2 bites that year, And then the next year, a little bit more educated, knew a few more people, caught 5.
Oh, mega.
That next year, yeah.
What was the changes? What did you make between those 2 years? What was the difference?
Putting myself in areas where anglers were.
Right.
It was very intimidating. Like, to give you an example, I can remember walking up once in the shallows. A chap had a fish in the blank swim, £20 common. But, bit of a crowd round him. Everyone sort of wondering, having a look. 5 or 6 chaps there. Walked up. Oh, what is it, lads? It's a common carp, that is, lad. Oh, I meant how big?
yeah.
So, it was kind of a little bit intimidating, and obviously used to sort of, not that I don't care. Well, I just, at the time you'd almost be like, who's on the stream? Oh, no. I ain't sitting on there with them boys. I have to get my rods out. What for crack off?
Yeah, so you
know what I mean?
Yeah,
You'd be paranoid almost, like, in case you messed up in front of, you didn't want to embarrass yourself or look like an idiot. Some of the best anglers around,
Who was on there at the time? Who was on there?
Oh, Mark the Bull, Brian the Miner, Flinty. There's a lot, quite a lot of Neil, Epi.
Yeah.
Some real on the ball anglers. I've still to this day, never fished a lake with the same area, just the same air that place gives you. You walk, it's just, you wake up there, it's just mega. It really is. I mean, they're not in relation to what's swimming around in lakes today. It's not a big fish then. There's fishing there to just under £40 now. But yeah, just, you're sat under 300-year-old oak trees. You are literally... The other place that's a little bit like it is White Swan, in the sense of like how mature the place is. I mean, it's not in relation to Redesmere, it's hundreds of year old Mere, but just a mega place, mega people at the time. I suppose it was kind of my first taste of real carp fishing, proper carp fishing, should we say. And I always remember leaving it thinking, and speaking to friends as well, saying, never replace them here. The amount of nights, and like I say, friends made there, up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, messing around with rigs. Mates chucking rigs at you, better that then. You know what I mean? It was almost like carp school.
Yeah.
It really was. You're surrounded by some very good anglers, and I suppose once you started catching a few and they seen how keen it was, you were kind of accepted a lot more, and then, year 3, part of it, like one of the boys and that.
Yeah.
It was,
you do your sort of apprenticeship.
Yeah. And you needed that on there, no one wanted to know you. Everyone wanted to keep the lake as quiet as they could. So it had a reputation of being, what do you fish on the Mere? It was, you had to know what you were doing to fish down there. But yeah, year 3, I just left school. So I must have been on there for, the last couple of years, really, like before school. So I remember leaving school. Like I said, I've been saving some money, doing what I could, and managed to save, I think, about $3,000.
Right.
So I'm full-time angler now, me. I got the money.
Full-time, boy.
I got the grands. So yeah, I basically fished until that money ran out. I used to get dropped off by my dad. I can remember quite, doing 13 night sessions. Obviously, all the boys would be dropping off the bits of food and the bits of bait that they had left to us. It'd just keep me going as long as I could. Literally get picked up, go home, have a bath, restock. Next day, see about the pond. Lived there as much as I could. I had 29 carp that year.
Wow.
Loved it, Knew what the carp were doing before they did it. Not in that, don't want to make it sound like that, but like, just certain weather had come in and you were almost, it was just programmed in you, you were, I need to be there. I need to be there. I need to be there. I can remember the year after that, I'd sort of started this business then and whatever. And I think I did under 30 nights fishing for over 25 carp.
Jeez, yeah.
You learned
what were the keys then? Go on, talk to me about that lake. Because that lake's pretty infamous. It's pretty infamous for Frank coming up with his sort of single high attractor
in the middle of the lake.
In the middle of the lake and chucking long.
Yeah.
For you, what were the sort of key elements that made you think, right, well now I know it well enough to sort of put myself in contention most times I'm on it?
Watching it happen over the sort of previous years, certain areas of the pond are coming to play through certain times of the year. And also, it wasn't all about bait. That year that I caught, like I say, I'm sure it was 27 carp for like 30 odd nights. It was a lot of overnighters, 2 bait stringers. putting yourself in that zone where, you know, you get up and you'd see him on that weather out in that bit of like body of water. Having seen it so many times, you know, it was all on the weather, checking the weather, right, yeah, in there. More times than not, you know, you'd nick one of an overnighter off. Shallows through August, you know, I just, the amount of hits that I had through August down the shallows, once that weed sort of, not died off, but sort of dropped, the fizzing that used to go on in there, you know, snail beds that they'd be turning over. Not that it was missed, but, you know, it was known then for main body of water, you know, the snub or single scale might get caught out in this area, so a lot of your traffic was going up there. You nip in the shallows on a certain weather, you know, certain weather will come in, warm southwesterly will come in, a little bit muggy, pop in there, see one fish cruising, you know, poof, fizz a start, and you think, the start of it. Put myself in that swim, you know, fishing long links, throwing stick. You're literally picking them off as they're coming in. I had 8 fish that trip.
Is that how you were catching them? Like, not stuff, you knew where they're going to be. In terms of where you're going to be, was it specific spots, or like you said there, just sort of casting links, getting drops, and then...
Yeah. I mean, like when you say spots...
There ain't...
I mean, it's just, well, you know, it's soft silt. You're chucking it where there ain't weed.
Yeah.
You're just trying to present a link. I mean, even in the... We used to treat it in, like, the shallows on Redesmere. More often than not, it would be a 2.5 ounce lead. You know, it's really soft bottomed. So 2.5 ounce lead, and it might be like an 18-inch link with a big snowman, with a PVA bag of just nuggets, with a load of nuggets on your rig, PVA tapes up, you know, but you'd be clipped up to these little holes.
Yeah.
And then it'd be, you know, 20 until it just, you know, no drop, you know, it's in there. And if them nuggets popped up, obviously your bag would be off, but your PVA tape the other nuggets on. Yeah. The first one would be up. Second, we're fishing.
Yeah.
If that second one wasn't up, you'd be redoing it.
So that's how you did it with the nuggets, did you?
You just try and really slow that descent of the lead going through the water, you know.
So you don't get completely buried.
No, yeah. I mean, obviously, you couldn't be putting them at the back of the Y, should we say 140 yards?
Yeah, of course.
But certainly, you know, 70 yards stick work, you know, it was just picking them off almost.
Yeah.
But again, I'd been made aware of that hit through watching it happen years gone by that time of year. But you're just thinking, you know, it's coming up to that time now. You'd be keeping an eye on it, keeping an eye on it. Haven't you just gone onto a lake? You know, you've got all that to learn.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part, isn't it? You know, it's the learning, piecing it together. I didn't want to say it got boring on Redesmere, but when you're trying to catch, I spent 5 years on there. You know, it's all about the snub and single scale.
Mm.
Well, it's like a lot of repeats, caught quite a lot of them. You know, you'd be looking at mid-20 in the net thinking, you come into the net, you'd be like, bastard. There's someone behind you that's fished all year for 2 or 3 fish, and they'd be buzzing off that.
Yeah.
That's when I kind of started drifting off elsewhere. You know, eventually I got on, like, I caught the snub.
Did you?
Yeah, 27th of February it was, I'll never forget. Yeah, baiting a spot. You should drag the bird down there at the time, sit on a little chair.
Drag the bird down there?
Yeah, it was. I used to set up the day chair and out to swim, get out my waders, all the way through January, baited it. Dead maggots and hemp.
Was that there?
Yeah, out there, fishing it with mate Waddo.
What sort of range are we talking here?
About 110 it was then. Yeah, out there, about 110 yards. You know, the old Gardner rockets?
Yeah.
Fucking half it come out with spod spill, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Half it's 20 yards out.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd be baiting that maggot and hemp, fishing it, like in between work or weekends, however it fell at the time. And I think about 6 or 7 bream this trip. You know, typically did it, you know, the old bream drop back.
I know them too well.
Another one. Fishing homemade, I think they were beef pop-ups at the time, little pink ones on like stiff links. Re-chucked it out there, set the bob in. I'm on the way into a mate swim for breakfast. He's like got a cat on and the brekkie on. It's a bit of it's muddy as hell, but it's like a couple of planks in the mud between them. Bosh, reset the bob in. I'm literally steps on the plank halfway through swim. It's gone. Fucking another one. Whack. Just started kiting straight away. I was like, carp on. Carp on. Like shouting mate straight away. It's a carp, this one, definitely. Obviously, like a load of bream later. Sure enough, it turned out to be the snub. I think £37.4 it was.
That's mad.
It was mega. And then, like I say, 5 years trying to catch him. Come on the week after. Heard a fish showing the bait to my left on the other side of the lake. 1 o'clock in the morning. Wound one of the rods in. Little double bottom bait, 2 bait stringer. Weighed around, chucked in the bait. Had to set up a pole because the bait sort of came back in on you.
Yeah, so it caught around there.
Yeah, caught him again 2 weeks later.
No.
Yeah, I didn't know my mate was baiting up in there at the time. But
there you go, just reacted to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no. Yeah,
did you ever catch that linear again? Or did you catch any of the linears?
Which one's on?
The one you lost.
Caught the capes on linear.
Caught the capes one. You didn't know which one it was, did you?
No, I never knew which one it was. I mean, I think looking back, it was more than likely to be the original linear.
Okay.
I mean, it had a real track record, you know, of being a rip your arms off sort of hard fighting one. And he certainly gave me the run round, you know. But equally the Cape Thorn did, you know, it was...
Yeah.
They're both big 30-pounders. You know. They're all the
Special
ground.
fish, mate.
Yeah,
Special
definitely.
place, special time and special fish.
Never got the original, no. Yeah, that one died. It was, well, a bit of a weird one, really. A chap found it, that fished it, took it home and buried it in his garden.
What? He buried it in his garden?
And they never told anybody.
What? That is random,
Honestly.
isn't it?
Yeah. Denzel, we call him, bone collector.
The bone. That's a good one.
A true story of that.
That's crazy to take it and put it in your own garden.
There's a chap fishing on there for it. Caught them all. Stevie Allen. Caught pretty much all the stock. You know, been on there 15 years, apart from the original linear. Been at it 2 years. See you there. Barry's there. No, it's dead. I went, how do you know? Yeah, it's in my garden. Took it home. Showed us a picture of it.
Cheers, mate.
The tape measure next to it. Yeah, tape measure. There it is.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for letting us all know that. It's really useful. In his garden. I mean, that is strange, isn't it? But you're up north, so it happens.
Well, it happens, mate. Yeah,
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Definitely.
As an angler, you said there, you referenced when you caught the snub in February, you were fishing 100 yards. When I look at your angling that I've seen, and it's all been media, I haven't actually been out on the bank with you, unfortunately, but it seems very natural. Would you say that you are a natural angler in terms of being able to see something, observe something, and then adapt in accordance to that? Like there, you're saying you're fishing at 110 yards, relatively easy. Could you do that? Was that always in your locker, sort of thing?
I suppose. Yeah. I mean, I never want to be in a situation where I can't capitalise on it, shall we say? You know, again, I wouldn't want to be on a lake fishing where someone can fish. You know, like Stoneacres was. I keep referring to Stoneacres, but Stoneacres at the time, you know, you could use a boat, but you couldn't use a boat. You can use it to bait up. You can't drop your rigs.
Yeah.
So being able to fish out at range, you know, if everyone was topping out at 120, 130, then fish knew that safe bound. If you could present rigs at 160, 170, different ballpark, you know, you would get more bites, but therefore there's a lot more work involved. So, you know, pushing yourself, 6-7 hours getting rods out, wiped out at night by, you know, a couple of bream or a weed bed. Repeat the process the next day. You know, the more you're doing that, the more it's becoming a second nature.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as much as it's nice, you know, fishing out in the pond, I'd much rather just catch them there, you know. I really would, just nice in the edge or, you know, close work. I just think you can get everything just so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, fishing them trickier pits with not as many in that have been maybe fished for a little bit, you know, line's the biggest one. I believe, you know, that their changes their attitude and feeding and whatever. If they, you know, with a line going to a spot they know they're getting angle for, there's no, you know, so spending a lot of time, you know, creating line lay and thinking about how a rig's going onto a spot and assessing things like that, I think is a big thing in fishing. Definitely.
Do you think that's the biggest thing? Especially for
100%,
those sort of tricky.
Again, and then it's assessing what you're doing. If you, again, from switching to braid and using it for wherever I can, really. Like I was saying before, you know, I'm using like 6-7 ounce leads. It's not all for the hooking. You know, you think about there's a lot that's going on between your tip and that lead.
Yeah.
Fish, obviously liners. What we're all looking for, nice glassy spots. You know what I mean? It's going to pull it out. It's going to move that lead before it pulls out the clip all day.
Yeah.
You know, nice and glassy. It's just it's like putting a 6 ounce flat lead on this floor. You set the bobbin up there and walk into your line.
Yeah. Sliding
off that first.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's trying to get everything, you know, you're trying to think about everything that could happen. We've all had it, haven't we? Did.
Yeah.
Grebe, coot, whatever, you know. If I can put a 6 or an 8, I'd have a 10 out there if I could be. You know, it just more percentages in my favour that isn't going to move. And obviously I can use the braid for fishing them smaller spots. You can just do everything so much more better with it, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It just ticks too many boxes.
You said to me out there, you probably wouldn't fish with mono anymore if you could avoid it unless
Zigs,
it's in the rules.
That's the only time I'd ever fish with mono is zigs. You know, I like taking all the tension out of the mono.
Yeah.
Quite a stretchy mono, take all the tension out of, you know, big old lead that's ejected on the bite, you know, and it's almost like a spring. So yeah, mono all day with zigs.
But anything else?
If I'm fishing spots, again, it's suiting. You know, if you're turning up to a lake, you know, the range fishing, that braid, I'm not a fan of the float, you know, like these thin floating braids whiplashes and stuff. I mean, I've used them for spodding, and if I was going to go and fish petty pool where you might fish 170 yards, you'd have 10 pound mono and a leader.
Yep.
But you're not fishing to spots. If you're fishing these gravel pits with little dinner plates, and especially like, say, referring to White's one, you might have 10, 12, 13 foot of water with an unhooking that size spot at the bottom. You swing down from it, splashing on the surface, with it not catching any weed on the way through, and then to land on the spot, you've got, I'm talking like your clip, turn the spool 1, put it back in the clip. Yeah, that's your spot. So you have to stand there with that, at that exact wrap to the inch, with that tip on that tree. Like, it's got to land on that. You ain't stopping until it's done that.
Yeah.
The rig's got to fly sweet, it's got to kick. You might be, if it takes me 100 tucks until I know that
You'll do it.
Yeah. But I know in my head, if I was to go out in the dinghy and go and look at them, you'd be Ali G flicking, you'd be buzzing.
We're going to talk about this because you've had the sort of the hindsight and the experience of being able to do that and sort of look at them, haven't you? When you were over at Stoneacres.
Gin, it's like it's tap clear. Not all year, obviously as it's algae blooms and so on.
Yeah.
But certainly spring, going into the winter, late autumn, winter time, tap clear, shades on, 12 foot of water, see your rig from the boat, that clear. So when you can, I did a lot of it I went onto there, we didn't have much clarity, but that's certainly late autumn, that first year. It's all in your head. You've always been imagining what it was like. So you spend time with like a leading rod.
Yeah.
Pop the float up, chuck a rig next to it. What you think? Go out and have a look.
Yeah. A lot of people don't get that. Yeah.
But the amount of spots that I caught carp from on Stoneacres that visually, nothing, just from the lead up, bump, little silty glide, in a million years you would have took note of. Looking, you know what I mean? Like from the boat.
Yeah, from the boat.
No shells on it, it didn't look fresh. But it was a presentable spot. I'd applied a little bit of bait to. Became one of them little shelled areas, do you know what I mean? So it was, not always just going off what you saw on the boat, but the amount that it learned you and how accurate you've got to be. When I say the range game is an edge, you got your blocks out there, might be on the second bar 160 yards away. When you're casting and casting and casting, you think, oh yeah, that looks about right. You go, rowing out there 170 yards, looking to find out that it's 2 foot off, or sat shit, or I knew it didn't quite fly right. So much of that you just know. You ain't rowing out there until you know. You cast it so literally the H block rocks.
Yeah.
That's the one. And you go out there and it's right. So you know how it needs to be.
Yeah.
So obviously, with going out and seeing that and knowing how much it needs to be just right, and how much lead work's involved to pick the, most build-up of spots are made up of bigger stones, whereas more times than not, the shallowest point will be the cleanest point on features. It'll be like that powdery, sandy sort of stuff. Obviously, your build-up, if you just to chuck out and you get that crack, quick, oh yeah, sweet spot, the amount of times you go out there, it's just spending them extra time. It might be 50, 60 chucks. Obviously, it's not ideal when you're turning up on fish. But at the end of your trip, you turn up or no one's on that swim and you saw something in that certain weather, I need to get something prepped in that corner for if that weather front's to come in next time, So if it takes 50 chucks of a lead to mentally map out what it is on the bottom, that's what it takes.
We're going to talk more about that and casting adjustments when we come on to Stonies. But one thing you said at the very start about line and line lay, for you, what sort of things do you do when you say you're considering or helping with better line lay with regards to going into whatever spot you might be fishing? What warrants sort of maybe these extra percentages, which can be ultimately the difference between a bite and not a bite?
It's just like a little weed rake, if anything, one of the best ones I got is it's not very subtle, but 6 ounce lead. You wanting something that's going to plumb it through. You could get like the old gardener rakes and stuff for the old like split ring on it.
Yeah.
You used to use them, but you'd be splicing a 5 ounce lead on there as well, to give it the weight to sort of get down.
Dig in, yeah.
Like I say, once you found them spots, obviously, there are sort of holes in the weed. Just trying to get that. I'm always trying to achieve, I don't want a big raked out, big clean area. I want something that's, half a foot to a foot. A lot of it's closer work that you're trying to achieve this to. So I got like a 6 ounce lead, like a flat pair, and I basically put a peg I just heated up. I did nearly a full tin of gas one trip at fishing. Just heating up the peg, ramming it through, heating up the peg, pushing it through. It took ages, but I got it through.
Yeah.
And yeah, I literally at the spot, bump down. And if you imagine like pulling it till you meet resistance and then trying to wind it up, and eventually, you know what I mean, you're getting, I've seen it from the boat after doing it quite a lot, you know, you're getting almost like it looks a bit like a cheese wedgie sort of weeds here, but it's slowly going down onto the spot. And I like to use a lot of putty, you know, keep everything down. So if I can I've got to use 13-foot rods more often than not. So, you know, the lead's here. So you think that drop's got to be 8-10 foot? Yeah. I'll have putty as much.
Will you all the way up?
Into the tipper, you know what I mean? So you're almost just rolling them over to your spots. You know what I mean? As much putty as I can get up there, intervals of 2 foot. And then once it's down, you know, all that bit is as good as it can be, in my mind anyway.
And for you, you use, if you're braid fishing, you use braid, but then a fluoro leader, don't you?
Yeah. I don't really use lead core.
No.
Not unless I'm fishing where I feel like I need to use it, you know, big sharp features, rocky bark, like whatever, thing like that.
Yeah, if it's savage.
But no, just for like, again, rig concealment, from going out in the boat, I don't want to start plugging here, but I started using that Thinking Angler's braid and going out in the boat. I had 2 rods fishing on, it was like November time, water clarity was amazing, you know, really, really clear water. This on Black Swan, a couple of rods out there on a spot. The other rod, I'd seen a fish show a bit further out, you know, maybe 120 yards. So it was a mono, took the braid off because it ain't the best for casting. Maybe 120 yards is maxing out with it. Bit of a wind on, much easier job with a mono. On with a mono spool, sent the rig out there. And it was later on that evening, I'd gone out to sort of like put a little bit of bait in and whatever. I could not find my braided rods. Like my rigs, I mean, I chuck a marker outside of the spot.
Yeah.
Row out there. That's the joys of the braid, you know. Markers, leads there. You go out, put your head over the boat. You know, on that tree, there's a marker, and I've got a rig, and I've got a rig. It is just like that. You know, you go out there, there's your rig. It's to the inch, it's the bollocks. You know, there's no searching around like the mono days looking for it's a rod length here or there. They're bang on. But then equally to that, you know, they're all baited up, and then we're coming back off them, and I'm fishing sort of 6 foot of fluorocarbon, a little heli setup on the end, but 6 foot of fluorocarbon. Weedy pit, you know, as well. So in case it's nothing else can ball up apart from on there.
Yeah.
But at the very worst, I can bundle the lot in the net. You know, I haven't got 2 rod lengths and a bloody leader not to worry about and all that lot. So I couldn't see that braid all the way back to my tips. Just honestly, I couldn't find it. Through an aquascope looking for it, couldn't find it. The mono, with my glasses on, I followed out from literally, I picked it up. So they were about 20 wraps, 80 yards. That's 120. You know, so you got another 40 yards here. Drifted over the side, straight away, picks up the glint of the mono, just with my glasses on. Followed it out to my rig. All the way out there, and you're thinking, it couldn't get any more obvious than that.
Yeah.
So once from seeing that, one of the biggest changes switching to the braid for me was getting a rod back out, one cast. If you've had a bite in the morning, you know, if you could get that rod back out on that spot, one chuck, plop, just like little, you know, hit the clip, plop the surface, even with a big lead, little bag on there, tiny little bag, it'd pop off, not to sit down, to pop off, but just, you knew it'd never ever tangle. So as long as you got everything right with the mono, you had the cushion of the stretch. You know, if you overgunned it a little bit, boing, she'd almost come back, settle, bump, there or thereabouts. You know what I mean? As good as you can be. There's no margin for error with braid.
No.
You know, that took a lot of getting used to, like, should we say, you know, especially if you might be fishing 4 wraps and then putting a rig at 18. You know, if you land just short of your clip, you know, it's a right mess, isn't it? You know,
of course.
But then equally, if you hit your clip too hard, you know, it's horrendous. You know,
savage.
So it's yeah. It's just once you get used to it, it's a dream. You know, sink, dink, plump, lovely. What the process of getting, you know, it did my head in. And I used it, and I'd come off it, and I go back to it. But once I sort of stuck with it, and it'd always be them little things as simple as, oh, I don't like how I couldn't get it bang on first time.
Yeah,
because I felt like that might cost me a bite. But then, like I say, once I sort of stuck with it, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
love it now.
I think once you do it, I think the first fight when you're fishing braid is very different, obviously, because you haven't got that stretch factor. But
it's the amount of times as well that, you know, you're getting them in from the bank, having to not go out in the boat.
Yeah.
Just cutting through weed beds, direct contact all the while. You know, you're not, like I say, you're not in the boat, nightmare. fucking weed everywhere, rod, in line. I had some right ordeals out in the boat. Honestly, I could tell you about something. That November one, honestly, if anyone was on that park, they must have thought a nutter was in the swim.
Which one?
Fishing in November, got my little inflatable, but it's to the side of my swim.
Okay.
Had a bite, and it's just left. No, sorry, it's hooking right.
Yeah.
We got like Spooky Bay and a couple of bays down there. I'm just holding on. This thing's just going down. There's a massive tree line margin to my right, all undercut trees and everything like that. So if it keeps going right, it's going to go into another bay.
Lovely, yeah.
Jump in the boat quick, little inflatable. But you can imagine, because it's to the side of the swim, I've jumped in it because you've already got that angle on it. You've started that rotation.
Oh, no.
I must have done 15, 20 circles.
Donuts, yeah.
Just going around in circles. We're going all the way down this tree line. Obviously, in the end, it's like, fuck off! Screaming, you know what I mean? Eventually, I had to literally open the bail arm. My net got stuck in the tree.
Oh,
my net come off
God.
behind me. Every time I pull, I just do another circle. I had to just like right myself, open the bail arm, back myself up away from the trees, start contacting them. You know what I mean? We were on them. We got him in. But yeah, anyone walking on that path must have thought, what's he doing?
Jeez,
Screaming me head off. Unable to get control.
At least you got it in, though, mate.
We got it in. Yeah, I don't know how, but we got him in. But yeah, that was a bit of a sitting theme in that swim. About 3 or 4 times.
The same thing?
Yeah, spinning around in circles. I couldn't help it. Because obviously you're just pulling from one angle.
Of course you are.
You couldn't put your rod
can't
that other
go
way
side to
because you'd be in
side
the
and go-
trees.
Yeah.
Nightmare, mate.
That
Nightmare.
is a nightmare. I didn't even think
And obviously
of
you're
it.
not wanting to not have any pressure on the fish, and get out in front of it and then go, are you?
No. Of
Instinct, pressure and keep contact.
course it is.
Yeah.
Good fun. From well, going back, mate, from Redesmere, another northern chapter we got to talk about, and I think for me it has to be, I don't want to say this because I'm an adopted northerner really, but I think if I could have picked one sort of carp to sort of personify the north or the north scene, it'd have to be that Tatton Common, mate. And obviously you had an eventful time on Tatton, but you did catch the fish, mate.
Caught him. Yeah.
You caught him indeed. And that is an incredible
Caught him fair and
carp.
square, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the fishing.
Fair and square.
Fairish and squarish.
Proper.
Talk to me about the fishing, the whole place, because it's not an easy prospect, mate. I've been up there. It's ridiculous. The fish is mega, but the thought of it, the sort of prospect of fishing it, it's not for the faint-hearted, is it, mate?
No. I mean, it's. Have you seen? It's a big bit of water in it. It's probably 90 odd acres.
Yeah.
The fishing that they actually allow on there, it's quite limited to one bank. Days as well. You can't really get near any of the prevailing winds. One end of it, the end that gets to northerly is mainly made up of a triple SI sort of area, like a deer fence that goes all the way across the water. But with that, quite a deep pit. Like the middle section down to about 18, 20 foot. But as a rule, both your sort of ends quite a shallow mere, 6, 7 foot in the middle. With that, they're the weedier areas. You got a bit at the top they call the duck pond, 300-400 yards away, from the nearest fishing swim. It's like a little canal section. It's got like a little 2-acre bay, if that, an acre bay, stuff full of weed. You can go up there on a hot day. That's where they live. That's where you've been up there yourself, and that's where you live.
Yeah.
So having sort of like walk up, and you see them. I'd had a little fish on there and whatever, the bit of aggro on there years ago, went elsewhere. It sort of come through the ranks again, and my mate had just caught it as a bit of a loose end. Not a loose end where to fish, but I sort of caught it when I was after it at the time. And I sort of I remember going on to Clifton, thinking like Mr. Angry.
Yeah.
It's just my first trip. I sort of went on there. Well, my first and only trip. Nothing ever went on there. Just sort of fishing it. Again, I always thought about the place, see what it was like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Sammy caught the common that night. I think £46 when he had it.
Yeah.
The other one had not long died, the big barrel. So that was my window, The big one was dead, the 50. Jim's has just been out, 46.
He's going to come up.
No one's going to be interested now.
Yeah.
Everyone will be thinking next year. So I thought, right now, I need to go on there now. Now's my time. I'm not even thinking, obviously, I ain't got a chance at it till next year, at least earliest. But I'd be there set up ready. Other people would be tripping up and, you know what I mean? They're coming into my spot, if you like, do you know what I mean? That's how I wanted to treat it. I was there as much as I could be, looking, baiting, not so much fishing, but it was always kind of a thing, you know, they were in the duck pond a hell of a lot.
I bet.
Hand fed them in the duck pond.
Yeah.
I could give my nan a rod and catch that carp out the duck pond. At certain times of the year, you know, you've probably seen it yourself in there.
I've seen it.
You just chuck boilies at it, it'll eat them. Safe as houses.
It's mental, isn't it?
Mental.
Absolutely mental. But you'd never get away with that in a month for Sundays, would you?
People have done. You know what I mean? They've gone in the duck pond and caught it. Each their own. Well done. I know, you know, I've got mates that have done it and caught it. Each their own. You know, they might have a different circumstances to me where they can't put in what's required.
Yeah.
But when I catch that carp, fair play. But respected captures amongst the big carp scene, you know, they were on a spot outside of the duck pond, work for.
Yeah.
And fishing went on the other banks. Anyone that was fishing it, fished the other banks, really. Do you know what I mean? Odd days. I mean, like, when I was fishing it come to a time where I was literally about to start fishing the days, and then, you know, I'd do little overnighters and so on. But yeah. I mean, I've already... Actually, I've got to be careful what I say about it, really.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I don't think I get in trouble anymore, but basically, the story of it basically is I caught the big one, and the Angling Times actually... they wanted to cover the story.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? It's a big, massive.
How big was it when you caught it?
51.7. I mean, in my head, I never in a million years thought it'd be that big. You know what I mean? I thought, you know, he's a 45-pound Cheshire Common. Sammy just caught it 46.
It's a mega one, in it, mate.
You know, unbelievable. It's just the pinnacle, you know, and it's amazing.
What was the rut like?
Carp.
Ridiculous scrap.
Crazy.
It looks like it would beat the living... I mean, it's not here anymore, but it looks like it'd beat the life out of
Powerful
you,
carp.
Yeah.
I mean, I was convinced I lost it one morning. You know, a hell of a lot went into that. A lot of walking, you know, it's big missions on with your gear, loads of baiting up, you know, quite short sort of fishing times. Caught one in May. I saw it show on me in May. You know, I had 20 minutes before I had to go. Rod rattled off. Big mirror, you know. Close. Seen them together loads of times in the duck pond feeding together.
Yeah. 2
weeks later on that, the build up to spawning, because that was in May time. They were there together eating my bait, you know. You're thinking, oh, I was close. And then it'd be like August time until the next bit of action. You know, a long period of time about nothing.
God.
Knowing that you're feeding tench, you know, making your spot ready. It was. I was going out and feeding tench, you know. Over a ton of bait went onto that, seeds, whatever I could get my hands on. Just whatever I could get my hands on. But then August, you know, it started to happen, and you go down the day to see them and you see bits of fizzing out there. Wanted to show that. Saw I thought they're on it. This is it now. You know, they were down that end. And after everything, all the graft and that, before I actually caught it, I can remember walking down the day, you know, bit of bait, throwing stick, got the dog, walking onto the fishing bank, found it. Literally, right in front of the first fishing swim.
No.
6 foot from the bank, chilling in a wee bed. There it is, for the taking. I could not believe it. You know, all that hard, like all the graft.
And it's there.
All the hard work, all the baiting, all the prepping, everything and it was there, found it in the day. Middle of the day, in the day bank, on the fishing bit, in a wee bed, 6 foot in front of me.
Bread bomb.
Raced home, got the dog, raced home, just grabbed a bit of bread, rod, net. I'm having the time common after all this, I'm having it on a bit of bread.
Yeah.
Got back there, couldn't believe it's still there. You know, like the amount of dogs and everything around the park and stuff, it was still there. Literally, you can imagine, by the time I'd actually, like, you know, bit was on it for about half an hour. Another bit. There's like 2 pieces of bread there. Yeah. Like one of them being the upbait. 45 minutes. I mean, it was on its nose. Not once did it show any interest. Eventually, he's just like meandered out. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to catch it. You know, I really thought. The whole time I've sat there, you know, you can imagine, all I've got to do is go, got it. No. But then obviously that, you know, I didn't think it looked that big though. I can remember seeing it and thinking, looks mid-40, you know, after spawning. It's still a big one, you know what I mean? But yeah, massive, but didn't look pumped at all. I mean, it was probably about 3 weeks later. I mean, I was putting a lot of bait, and as soon as I seen them signs of carp on the spot, you know, it switched to 20 millers, 24 millers, 24 mil halibut pellets. It was carp food getting put out there, nothing else. And yeah, caught one morning just before I had to go, and I caught another one. Then I lost one. Well, like one in the net,
rod's busted off, plane on, and it's just gone off to the left and just stripped me.
But you've had one in the net and another one's gone off that same spot.
Yeah. Then it's literally stripped me. Happened a few times. I had it a couple of times. But yeah, this occasion, I think now, rod's gone. I had a 26 pounder. Didn't know it was 26 at the time, but yeah, netted one 26. Then tying up another little hinge, gets rod back out there. You know, you've got 20 minutes left before you got to go. Thinking about getting him out to do some quick self takes. And start sorting that out. Rod that I just reach up, busts off again. Literally goes off left, and it's just, holding the clutch, going left, taking line. Bump, up pulls. Can't believe it. Savage. In your head, that's it. It's known for its powerhouse thing. Thought that was it. Gutted. So I remember, I just chucked that rod in the bush. Thought, right, I've got to get these self takes out of this. Rolled the net up. Had one rod left out there. I've looked at it. Smack. Gone out to put him in the same net as the other one. Just another 20 pounder. So I had 3 bites in the morning on it.
What's the stock on there at the time you're fishing it?
I wouldn't like this. 30, 40. But then, there's not many, but then obviously a few get chucked in and whatever. So
yeah.
You don't really know, but not loads. Then 3 bites in that morning was buzzing. Then I couldn't get back for a few days, so I was baiting up a lot. Had some things to do with aqua. I remember we were down Brasenose of all places. Had to go down there, do a bit of filming. I remember leaving. I'd gone down and baited up literally 3 times as heavy. I'd put in a load of bait. Probably 20, 30 kilos of boilies, a load like a sack of halibuts, because I couldn't get to it for 5 days.
Right.
Way doing this filming. I caught one on the last trip, a 20-pound mirror. Filled it in. Had to go and do this. As you can imagine, my head's on that place. And it was my first trip back from there. I caught it early August, in the morning. Everything, 51 pound. I had to just load it. It got very weedy at that time. And I could just see it. It was literally snarled up in a load of weed. Full job, over the chest waders, got him in the net, ragging the net to it. It's just, how it stayed on the end, I don't know. But yeah, Slay's never falling off.
Absolutely.
Just head blown. Literally looking at the net thinking, it is. And then I've weighed it quickly on my own, it's just 51, 52, 51. Thinking, no way.
Yeah.
I tell you, I had a mat stashed in the tree all the time, like a second mat. When, got him. He's grabbed my phone, 50% battery on it. I tell you, I've gone to ring someone, doof, dead.
What?
That's what I'm saying. What?
Come on, mate. I need you to work.
Exactly. Won't turn on. It's coming up with a battery sign. Like an old iPhone 4 or whatever it'd be. Whatever they were, do you know what I mean? But it was one of them that, they get so old, the batteries don't last very long, do they?
Yeah, of course.
I can't do self-takes of this.
No.
Nah, so he's in the sling. I've packed up all my gear. Run. I don't know how I did it, but I did. I literally ran with all my gear back to my van, stashed all my gear. So all I had there was scales,
sling,
2 mats.
Yeah.
I thought I'd grab all my camera stuff, grab my battery pack out the van. I don't even have had that. If I sat in my van for 10 minutes and charged it up, one of my mates couldn't get to me. Ended up bringing Lloyd in, his brother.
No.
Yeah, and he brought his little girl down there as well, because he had to be babysitting and that. So, this is 6:30 or whatever in the morning. They're on the way to me, at least I've sorted that buzzing. And then I was thinking, what if someone saw me have it?
Yeah.
And let it go. It's just in the retainer in the swim, I'm probably half a mile away from that in my van.
Oh, mate.
So I've got, no. So I'm sprinting back from my van now, back into the swim. Obviously, just see it there, bobbing away. Just,
thank God.
Thank God he saw it. But that was it. Absolute, just blown to bits. Like I say, for days, because you change a lot of your life for that. It's not, you put a lot in, and you're sort of working at hours when other people are awake.
There's all sorts.
Or asleep, rather,
Yeah,
you sort of become an owl for a certain amount of time.
There's all sorts that go. Everyone that I spoke to, Rob Allen a little bit, I saw that story and that carpology feature that he did with regards to that. Anybody's caught that fish, absolutely hats off to him. It's
your life goes on hold. That fish has to become your life. For what's required from it, I'd never... There's no angling involved as such. Do you know what I mean? You were picking a spot and baiting it because of the limitations. You were picking your time off previous track record of it, getting into certain areas at certain time of years. You were having to be there from February, so no one else could, get it going.
Yeah.
For you may have a chance just before spawn, and if not, it might be August, September. But every day I went down there. Sometimes 3. I think the worst I ever did was 3 times in one day.
3 times in one day?
It was 10 miles from my house, but still I was like, 10, 20, 60 miles a day.
Yeah.
I was walking the dog twice, and then you just think, how you get back there? You know, maybe it's just, like I say, it's an obsession. It was worse because it was just there. You know what I mean? And when you were into
That's
it. But yeah, no, it
dangerous,
was...
That's almost like, obviously, the buzz, but the relief has got to be a massive part of that buzz.
Yeah, major. I mean, just stroll around there now, you know, just when the dog's there now, and you just sort of like look at it and just think, God, it took some, that did. You know, it really did. Just mentally, you know, you again going on, you know, you having to park your van in dodgy places and sort of, you know, you're not meant to be there at them times, and there's a lot of other people are at it, you know, you're in there when it was happening, you know, it like in between catching them. The trip before I caught the big one, I've heard someone putting in bait to my left 50 yards down the bank, you know. I know what 10 kilo boilies going in sounds like.
Yeah.
You know, you're 45 minutes with the catty, an hour, two of them, you can hear lots of them, you know, team. You're thinking, oh, it's down here the times now. The last thing you need is its head turned.
Yeah.
But luckily, you know, luck was on my side and we got him. He did get caught literally, I think, 2 weeks after I had him as well, just on that area.
Did he?
Up to the left, yeah. You know, he knew where his bread was buttered, shall we say.
Of course he did. Worth all the backlash and stuff after it was covered and all that stuff?
Like we touched on before, you know, the Angling Times, they wanted the picture. They wanted the story. I was using a friend of mine, Neil's. He'd started a bait company, Connect Baits, at the time. Very good friend of mine for years. And, you know, he used to sort my bait out at no cost. And because of that, I felt, you know, I felt obliged that I needed to give him the publicity. Connect Baits, Tatton Common. That's why I got the bait for free, to give him that back. So Carp Talk could sort of, you know, add a few quid off Carp Talk for the exclusivity. Front cover. You know, they knew it was a sensitive capture. Tatton Park. No, not even a mention of Tatton Park, just Cheshire Mere.
Yeah.
You know, again, I didn't want to bring the attention to it. Them that know, them that don't. Simple as that. So, yeah, a couple of £100 off them to exclusivity. This is what we're going to write. You happy with that? Lovely. All good. In the interim, Angling Times had rang up Stapley. Obviously, they heard that I'd worked there.
Yeah, the tackle shop.
Yeah, I basically got a phone call from Gary, my old boss, and he's saying the Angling Times had rang the shop. They're asked you. I'll give him your number. So I was like, all right, mate, yeah, no worries. Phone rings. Blah, 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 from the Angling Times. Well done on the fish. We'd like to cover the story. We can offer you a few £100 for the... I was like, I've already taken that from Carp Talk.
Yeah.
Worked with them before. All happy. So there'll be no story about it, nothing else. Bit of a sensitive capture, should we say. Right. Okay. Then it was... Like I said with that, you weren't really angling. You know what I mean? You both sat camping.
Yeah.
Waiting for your opportunity. So having caught it, I went to Cambridge. You know, it was just... Whoa, you know what I mean? Like having reins off, you can fish.
Yeah, free.
All around the lake.
Yeah.
And just how it all worked out, literally. So it's 5 trips in, so it would have been a month later, something like that. I caught Colin. I was driving home.
As you do.
Oh.
Colin.
But I was driving home and had a phone call from my mate, and I was all buzzed up, as you can imagine. Like, I literally, mate, effing was in the van. I had 2 rods left. There's a guy waiting to get in the swim. I just found him out there, baiting him. I caught him the week before, that big head one. Some other guy caught Laney's off the side of it. You know, it would have been a trio, bang, bang, bang.
This is the runs water that is St Ives, yeah? Absolute runs
water. Worked out all right at the time.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, bang, wallets him just before packing up. Got him 48.10, I think it was, massive. And my mate had rang me. Having a bit of a chat, and he went, "Oh, you're going to Courting, yeah?" I was like, "What? About what?" He's like, "Oh, I've seen something in the paper about Tatton." So this is the first that I've heard about it.
So you don't know anything?
Not heard anything. My mate's telling me that I'm going court for something to do with Tatton. You've seen it in some newspaper somewhere. So I'm obviously like, best check me messages. Like, I'm a nightmare when I'm fishing, like, you know, for Nattons, you probably find out.
I know very well, mate. But I am punishing.
But basically, I've looked on me, voicemails. Got a voicemail. This is PC Jim Day from Knutsford Police Station. We'd like you to come in for a voluntary interview regarding an incident that's taken place at Tatton Park. So obviously I've rang them. We've just played dumb. What incident? Blah, blah, what's gone on? Yeah. I've spent a bit of time down there. Like, what's happened? Nothing too major. Just wanted to come in, just come and clear things up. Do you need a solicitor? No. It's just a quick interview. Blah, blah. Obviously, knowing what you know now.
I need a...
You know what I mean? But anyway, Muggins here has turned up. Can I take my dad? No. Yeah, no, actually, sorry. Can I take my dad? Yeah. Yeah, he's more than fine to come and sit in. He's quite educated on that sort of side of things.
Okay.
So I think he'll show them. Gets there, he can't come in. It's all formal then, isn't it? Interview under
police conditions or whatever.
Yeah, all recorded and that.
Yeah.
They got part of the Environment Agency in there. And then present me with the Angling Times' piece that they'd wrote on it. They'd taken a picture of me off my Facebook, obviously without with permission.
No.
Ran the story anyway. Myles Gibson, Tatton Park, days only, blah, blah, blah. But in that picture, in the back shot, was a rare fern that only grew in the Triple SI section of the Mere.
So done you from that.
So one of the rangers is an angler as well.
Okay.
He's obviously seen the picture of the Tatton Common.
Yeah.
In there, in the Angling Times. I can prove that's in the out of bounds. Gone to Knutsford Police Station where there's a newly appointed wildlife officer working with Tatton Park, because not only is it the fishing, lads were doing nights, fishing, it was also people going in there and taking deer, heads found everywhere and that, just poaching the deer. Yeah. Quite a few, it's full of deer in there. So obviously people were having them for munch.
Yeah.
So there's at the time there was a newly appointed wildlife officer working with the Mere, with Tatton. So obviously I was, here you go. So this was obviously, you are here because of this. Where did you park? So I was just like parking there, walked to there. There wasn't ever one sign saying no fishing. There's not one sign saying you're trespassing.
Yeah.
Private, I didn't climb over one gate. Dead easy. Walk in. It was just a long walk in across some fields that my uncle who lived in the village showed me. Spot on. In my head, I'm thinking,
No, it's sound.
But is that Operation Lafavin? I can't pronounce it, whatever it is. But that's what they were trying to do me under. Took me to court. The charge read, unlawfully took a fish in water, which was named private property, Tatton Park. A little bit cocky, but I was like, your charge doesn't make sense. How do I take a fish in water? Take it out of it. Which they obviously didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, well, that charge fell underneath the Fish Theft Act. Yeah?
Right.
I thought, there's no way in a million years I'm pleading guilty to anything that falls underneath any Fish Theft Act. Yeah. So I've got video evidence of it going back in the lake at 7 o'clock, at 7:30, when the park's open.
Yep.
And there's no sign saying I can't fish there. So
it's all right. We're clear.
We're all good.
That's charges, not the one.
Well, no. I ended up getting done for it. They'd done me for... In the end, it was failure to pay the £6 day ticket, which my argument was it's the bailiff's job to find me. That's why he's a bailiff.
Yeah.
But whatever. It's... I was never going to not get away with it, not with this brand new operation against poaching. And the only thing that the guy could refer it to is like salmon rivers and...
Yeah. Okay.
Things like that. But yeah, no, it's in the Sun. It was on our local news on ITV. Got interviewed by Derek Flindra when I come out of the.
You've
I've turned up, to the. So obviously, I've said I'm not guilty. I'm not pleading guilty to that. So I'm going to plead not guilty. So then it's got to go to trial. Then you got to get yourself a solicitor. $5-6 grand later, you got your solicitor. Obviously, how they work, it's all, it's madness.
Absolute madness. Yeah.
So basically, now we're in court, and they basically got the ranger there. My solicitor's there. He's got the ranger saying. So, I'm coming to your Tatton Park as a guest, coming to fish for your common carp. There's loads of them. How do you know it's the right one?
Yeah.
And he's like, obviously, they haven't got a clue. I said, Jim's, mate. So, how would I know where to fish? Could I go and fish where Mr. Gibson fish and not be known? Yes, you could, yes. I'm thinking,
we've done it.
What more do they need to say?
Yeah, we've done it.
Yeah. No. Like I say, I was never in a million years getting away with it.
No.
£6,000, in solicitor fees and whatever. We had to go once, and because the trial had ran over, obviously it's his time you got to pay for. £1,000 for his time just that day.
My
yeah, he didn't even do anything. Didn't even do a job.
Murder.
Crazy, yeah, crazy.
But you'd do it all again for that fish, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but basically, I've turned up for the trial.
Yeah,
I got there early. Guy outside, big, right, one of these, but a massive job, big tripod, big cat hanging off the end of it, BBC all over him. Like, what are you doing there, mate? Footballer or something, like BBC covering. So this is before the courtroom was open, it's in the morning. I've gone to go straight in there thinking, get in there, locked. Stood outside, making conversation with this guy. Oh, you work for the BBC? Yeah. Who are you here for? I'm covering a story on a chap called Myles. That's me.
Did you say that's me?
Yeah, straight out. Yeah, I was like, that's me. As I told him the whole story, I was like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Mate, fishing's my life. Just don't make me look like I'm bad. And all this I'm saying to him, yeah. I'm like, they're the ones in the wrong gear. This has been done for years. Loads of people have caught this fish from the same spot.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
You sold everyone out.
Everyone. And basically, he was dead. He was proper sound, to be fair.
Was he?
Yeah. He's like, do you mind doing an interview when you come out? I was like, nah, I don't want to interview or nothing like that, mate. I said, and as soon as I come out, he's just gone.
Right in your mouth, just straight with a microphone. Not live.
Well, no, obviously, but it's on the news. I've come around my mate's house after, who'd gone with me, and it's on the news. Derek Flinders, he's like, you're on, Barry. There's pictures, video of me walking outside the court with his shades on, looking like a tit, looking on the phone to him at the time, like, you're not going to believe this, what the fucking BBC are here. That's me on BBC.
Mate.
Then it was in The Sun, The Rodfather, it was labelled. The Rodfather. It had T-shirts and cups made up by the boys and that, jokes.
That is... The Rodfather, what a headline, mate.
The Rodfather, yeah, I've still got it. Obviously, keep in that.
Yeah, next, your Strictly Come Dancing appearance will be there, mate. You're in.
You ain't seen me dance, have you?
I might do later, mate. That is an incredible story, but a mega fish, mate.
Yeah.
That's the one for me up there, I think. Of all the northern captures you've had, you referenced the lever earlier and catching it pretty quickly, but those fish, what is that the one that stands out?
Yeah, I mean,
because of the journey, the sort of arduousness, pre and post.
It's a graft. It really is. But again, it's a £50 Cheshire Common. 50-pounders in Cheshire shouldn't be in the same sentence. There's not many of them at all.
No, there ain't.
Oh, I don't think there is one at the moment.
No.
I can't think of one.
No.
There's the has-beens. Tatton's been, that's done 2 of them, hasn't it? So if anywhere's going to do another one, it'll be Tatton. There's a few that are, knocking on the door.
It's got pedigree, hasn't
50.
it?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
That's some task, though. I won't be going down there, mate. I'll leave that. Leave that to you, boys.
Yeah.
Right, mate. We've had a mega chapter up north. I think it's only right that we move on to a place. But before we get to that place that you've already talked a little bit about, which is Stoneacres, we've got to talk about a certain individual, mate, that you're very close with, that you've spent a lot of time with, and that I believe you've taught him all that he knows about carp fishing. Mr. Eggy lad himself, Scott Lloyd.
Oh, Noodle. Yeah, no, he's a good lad, isn't he, Noodle?
He's an absolute brilliant lad. His podcast, I enjoyed my time with him. I've spent hours.
Mad as a box of frogs.
He is nuts.
Yeah, no, he's a good lad.
How did that come to be then? You're similar area, aren't you? Is that?
Yeah. Pretty much same town, really. Both from Crewe. I think the first time I met Scott, we popped into the point on St. John's. Yeah, obviously years and years ago. Popped into there. I think one of my mates was fishing. And Scott was next door, and I think I'm not sure if he even had a bed chair, but he was with his missus. A bit of a blow up bed sort of job going on. And he caught one, 28-pounder on a zig. Yeah, I don't want to slate him off, but yeah, death rig. I think it was just a bit of a shot behind a lead and a swivel and a bead. Get out there.
Nothing's changed.
Well, no. Yeah, no. Years and years ago. But yeah, I can remember, like I say, he'd had that fish, and about 19, 20, we used to go out most Friday nights, Saturday nights, drinking and whatever then. And I was out sort of on the pissing down switch. And a couple of weeks later, and hey, he's come over like chatting away. And one thing and another, it's, I'm going to get a ticket. When I was just fishing on Stoneacres at the time.
Yeah.
He's, I really fancy Christchurch. I think one of his older mates from years and years ago had spent a bit of time down there, caught a few, petals included, so it was a bit of a, I don't know, somewhere like we were talking about before, if you spend a bit of time listening about somewhere and it's kind of in your heart then, isn't it, to go and fish there. So he was all buzzed up for that. And obviously he'd been around, done a bit of fishing, but it's very different sort of fishing, that, isn't it? And yeah, we spent hours, chatting away and tying rigs, leaders, knots, rigs, how things work. But it's like a sponge, Scott, Once if you've seen some at once, it's absorbed. There's no, show us that again. And we've probably seen him climbing trees, the fish finding ability that boy's got, is above and beyond. So putting the two together, you don't really want him on your water.
No,
You catch
definitely
them,
not.
yeah, you definitely catch them. That's for sure, yeah.
What sort of antics you boys get up to on waters? Did you team up, or was it very much? 'Cause a lot of your fishing's very on those type of waters. It's very individual, isn't it?
Well, like I say, he was fishing over on Christchurch to start off with.
Yeah.
He was banned from driving. He could only really get lifts up there, so it was obviously you could get no consistency to your fishing that way. We become more matey. Obviously, I was going up there on my own most weeks, and like I say, 60 quid fuel, so straight away the fuel bill's aft. Touch. He could fish the same days I could. He'd be fishing on Christchurch, so it just literally pull up in the van, drive him up to the top, chuck his gear out, see him in 3 days.
Perfect.
Yeah, obviously he could get out fishing, half my bill. Great, spent a bit of time, and then I think he spent quite a bit of time over there, course of a season or so, and then a little bit on to-ing and throwing. I think he obviously the climbing trees had definitely given him a bit of an edge. Spotted a few fish in the calf bay there, and there was always talk of a mystery common, 40-pounder, like there always is.
Of course there is.
And I'm in Big Point, so it's on the other side of the pit. You can see it from there, but anyway, he's on the phone. I've seen all this big common from the tree. Blah blah blah. It's a tiny little spot going off. I can remember it, and I'm talking to my mate. Phone's ringing. He reminded me of it. He said, "I saw you look out, look at your phone, and put it back in your pocket."
Blanked him.
Well, no, I was chatting to mates. I'll ring you back in a minute, but then it's gone again. He got one. They called it Scottish Commons after that. £38, but an amazing common. Probably not been caught in at least 5 or 6 years. Went on to catch the bus as well shortly after on a little choddy in the edge again, through the climbing trees and seeing them. So, yeah, he's definitely, in that short period of time, I suppose surrounded by so many good anglers, he'd come on so much so quickly. And obviously, Stoneacres, he's kind of went on there a little bit more as I sort of left, if you like.
Yeah, okay.
We've always kept in touch, like I say, with the same sort of town,
All
we
the
link up quite a bit.
Madheads,
Yeah, no, he's all right. He's a good boy.
Good. Stoneacres, you said there with regards to getting on there. What was it? Was it Choco that sort of pushed you to there? Was it that fish?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like again, friends that had sort of fished on Redesmere had ventured off, caught that fish, like little Bob Gillespie.
Yeah.
Seeing his shots of it at £52. Other lads on there, hearing Brian the Minder's story and Mark the Bulls, there was the upfront linear, remember at the front page of Carp Talk. So again, it's been surrounded by them lads. I suppose catching fish with them lads and thinking, if they can do it, I can do it. It was just the logistics of getting down there week in, week out, the funds, trying to make everything work out. But yeah, that was the drive, the ultimate goal, Choco. And then obviously when you're there, you're learning more of the stock.
Yeah,
you're seeing them on the bus, seeing them on the bank, like the bus. The Arflin, Bite Mark, Kevs. And all of a sudden, I want to catch that one. But there were ones to catch along the way, the ultimate goal was Choco. Never caught him. Came close with the goose. I mentioned the goose earlier.
Yeah, you need to share this story, mate. So basically, Stonies, to paint a picture, it's a big water, isn't it? It's boat fishing, but you can't drop your rigs from a boat, can you? You can go and bait up, can't
Changed
you?
now.
Changed
Yeah,
now.
you can do everything from a boat now. Position all your rigs, do everything. The time that I fished it, it's kind of gone full circle. It like a time where it was use a boat, drop your rigs, do everything. Then it went back to casting, and it was during that period of time, like the casting that I fished it, like we were saying about the range game. If they're getting fish for at 140 and the centre of the lake's 170, that's where you're seeing them show most days. There's no lines out there; it's a safe zone.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were just sort of like, I was sort of like solely Choco in mind, week in, week out, getting down there. I say never actually got him, but I would say about the goose, how close I came to him. I was baiting a swim called the Bins. Buckets and buckets and buckets of parkle out there, big weed beds in the way. Left it that way for weeks, It's a day or two work just to get fishing there. So weeks and weeks and weeks of this baiting. Then it comes to the trip, got there in the morning early. It was evening time before it was set, literally 5-6 trips in the boat, sport yak, nearly sinking, it's that full of weed, just ripping out weed beds. Sorted the job. And Adam Smith, he spent a lot of time down there, that sort of time, almost full time, at least 4 or 5 nights a week. He'd just nip home, recharge, and then get back down. So he's there all the time.
Yeah.
And he'd fed this little goose, like a snow goose. You know what I mean? Like a little snowy goose.
Yeah.
It was almost his pet. Wherever Adam was, this goose was never far away. Right? He'd always feeding it, bloody boilies. It was getting bigger. Right? But all the time feeding this pet goose.
So he's a couple of swims down from me. I'm in the bins, rod's out, bait the spot, been picking them off. I'd actually been out there earlier that day. Rods are in position. What have been? Got the rods out, gone out to check the spots. And whilst I've gone out there, I've seen the ghosty. Yeah, there's only one in there, the ghosty.
How big's that at the time?
Scrape of 30, 28 to 30 pound. A bit bigger now. We made him at 38 pound this year, actually.
Wow.
But yeah, at the time he was sort of 28 to 30 pound. We were saying how clear it was. So I got my shades on, sort of approaching the spot, no engine. See the ghosty lifting up off the bottom, gills are flaring, he's chewing bait. Up comes Choco.
Oh, no way.
100%. I've seen it from the boat. That's him. He sort of turned, not spooked, but obviously they were aware of my presence and sort of drifted off.
So, yeah.
Looked, rigs are in position. Half the bait was gone. I just got out of there. Literally got out of there. The bins is quite a high bank swim.
Okay.
So when the water's up, rod's up on the bank, sort of tips down. If you ever to get a bite though, a few beats and it's lifted up off your alarm. So tips are down as much as they can, and there's probably 10 yards of line out the water. All back in. I'm explaining to Adam, you can imagine, I can't believe what I've just seen. Yeah. It's on my spot. It's feeding. It's with the ghosty. They'll be back. Next morning, Adam calls strolling down, normal brew, smokes and that, sat there watching the water. With Adam comes the goose from around the bush. Yeah, so it's come around the bush, hit my line on my left-hand rod.
No.
And just kept going, but freaked, and I'm like, oh. Like trying to drop
what, straight? So it's not backed off, it's just gone straight for your
line?
line?
Hit my line and just charged, just with purpose. And I'm like, no. Can't flick it off him, can't think he put it down there's a bit of slack line. I'm thinking, oh no. Spiked, I daren't go out there now and look.
You can't, yeah.
No, I'm going to have to leave it and hope. But anyway, I've gone out there about 11 o'clock, half 11, sort of let that morning bite period sort of go. And,
but you ain't seen him again out there? You ain't seen him?
Not seen no shows or nothing, but I'd seen him out there the day before feeding. Okay. Rigs were in position. Left it, didn't even top it up, thinking they will be back.
100%.
They'll be back. Yeah, so I've left it. This has happened about 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh. Killer, absolute head falling off. And I've gone out there and basically all the weight's gone. And there's a drag mark, about a foot, and I can see my rig in the weed pulled off. It was literally a drag mark and all a collection of weed.
No.
Not presented. About a foot off the spot, yeah. So I come back, I was like, fucking goose.
Yeah. I'd have had that goose in a pot, mate.
Yeah. It wasn't around for long, I'll be honest. I'm not going to say I killed it, but it might have gone under the van.
Mate, that is a killer.
Nightmare.
Literally a drag mark. You dragged into the weed by the goose.
It's that clear. You're going out with your glass bottom bucket, the aquascope, and you can see it, clearly. Not a bait there. There's perhaps 150 baits left, holes, chops. Not a very big spot,
What would have been? What could have been?
What could have been. But yeah, no, I mean, I did. Well, yeah, I lost him a couple of times, I'm sure,
You see him, as in lost him? Or?
Yeah, once. I moved on to it, show. Again, early August, very, very weedy. I was fishing in Crows, and don't think there's anyone on the pit at the time, and I'd walked down to Big Point, just sort of sat there, brew, watching out. And where the second bar is, just at the back of it, perhaps a rod length or two at the back of the second bar, weed all over the surface, covering about an acre of water, big weed bed out there. And I'd seen, literally sat there, no mistaking it, jet black 50 pounder, up to its wrist 2 or 3 times on the second bar, in between the bar and the weed, it was in that area.
What range is that?
About 155 yards.
Okay,
155 yards from the bank to the bar, so it's a long chuck. Like I say, at the times, I had my old Trevs of Winslow, 3.5 chimeras, emblems loaded up with sort of 10 pound line. But I was using 20 yards of a 20 weight. I think it was SK 3000 or 2000 something. It's like a woven sinking braid as a leader.
Okay.
So obviously, you know what I mean. That'd take the wallop and get the rigs out there, having the bite straight in the boat, no pressure on the light mono, 20 pound braid on the spool, a 22 pound braid. Wallop.
Yeah.
Give it them. And lost track of what we were talking about there.
Sorry, mate. You'd seen it show.
Yeah. So I'd seen it show. I'd moved, and I can remember literally flat calm show. I'd seen a couple of others, but there's no mistake in that one. Got all the kit into the swim. I don't think there's anyone else in the pond. And literally left it till just after dinner. Let everything quieten off out there. Obviously didn't want to go out there when it was maybe feeding. Gone out on the boat. It's like a sheet of glass. See a spot on the bar straight away. Dropped an H block on it. Up a little bit further. Dropped an H block. And then we're on the way back in. Saw 2 fish feeding on a silty strip, really weedy. H block that up. But the one out there. You know, where I'd seen it, that was the one. Of course, because I'd left it a little bit later in the day, this wind had sort of sprung up. Only a gentle breeze, but it was blowing right in my face. 5 ounce zip lead, you know, I've shaving a tiger nut down to the size of a pea with a little bit of yellow foam as a sighter on the back of it. Just trying to make the cast, and it was just short. You know, I couldn't make it. Spod rod had £20 whiplash on it. Spod rod, £20 whiplash, same setup. 5 ounce zip lead, this little tiny tiger. Wallop. Anyway, a couple of chucks later, ping, bang, on the money. I row out there. Oh, it's sat the bollocks. Like, there's 5 ounce zip lead. Just as the bar sort of went up, it had gone poof. Hook had kicked over. See, it sat there like nice, but the leader was up and off the bar or horrible.
Oh, yeah.
So I nipped back to the bank, got me a landing net pole, broke the net down, so obviously giving me the V of the spreader block. Out there, opened the bail arm, down, sweet as it could be, literally threw about 5 or 6 nuts in my mouth, chucked them on it, and a palm full of hemp, and that was it. You know what I mean? The birds were an issue. Hence the nut up bacon, the tiny little, it wasn't even a fake corn, it was like just a slither. Even, I mean, obviously to learn on, I used to put a stroke of Tipex on the leads in the end, so you could use a matching up bait, but then obviously pick out the lead as a sighter. But yeah, anyway, got this rod out there all braided up, spod rod, other rods were sorted, and I remember a lad like one of the amigos, used to be 2 brothers that used to fish it, come around in the morning, sat there, you know, this is just a time, first light sort of thing, sat there watching, a couple of rods out there, this one's on a 4th rod on like a Neville, all stainless bloody solar bobbin on it, anyway, but it's down the side, chatting away to the amigo, you're wearing crows every day, you seen how you moved, like, oh, no mate, just fancied it, you know, obviously ain't going to say I've seen.
Yeah, of course you're not.
And as I'm chatting to him, no mistaking it, I'm sat on my brolly chatting, he's sat on the floor, sort of facing me, I think it might have been shelling. Sees it show. 100% a sees it show. Right, and it looks like it's just at the back of the bar. Like I say, the weed bed was a good reference, because we went out in the boat, you knew you had about 2 rod lengths before the weed bed started, and that was all over the surface, and this thing's showing just my side of the weed bed. So you're like, it's a rod length away from you, 2 rod lengths away from you. So anyway, I've clocked it, not obviously kept it together. Matey boys got off after about half an hour. You're sort of like watching the oars going a bit quiet, and then that rod just absolutely busted off. I say it's on the braid, you know, busted off. Pick the rod up, just flat rodded from the word go. You think it's made that weed bed.
Yeah, of course it has.
Net, you know, nothing in the boat out there, and I'm amongst all that lot, and obviously it's just weed everywhere. You know, hand lining it, back on the rod, hand lining it, back on the rod. You're over maybe 10 or 12 foot of water of pretty much solid Canadian. You know, hard work. At the time, just a size 6 wide gape it was, not even an X. You know, before the X's come out, I think it was a size 6 wide gape. And hand lining it, back on the rod. And at this point, whilst I'm back on the rod, I can remember like trying to make a big hole in the weeds, you know what I mean, to get the net in, to get the fish in. And on making that hole, I'm back on the thing, and the fish literally swam straight through the hole, literally 18 inches under the surface, saw every blemish of it, choco, a 50 pound for sure at the time. Back on the rod, and when I'm back actually handlining it, just come off in my hand, underneath the boat, literally.
Well, one bump and then
sick. You can imagine sick.
I don't know what I'd do, mate. To be honest.
Then another time on a full moon, coming up to like last week in October, been baiting a spot. I fished it for like four trips, no bites, fun and games. You know what I mean? You'd fill it in when you left, come back, all the bait gone. Fish over a little bit, nothing. Try filling it in, nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's just fun and games for a few trips. And I decided to go down the other end of the pit. Typically, my mate had dropped on. He's like, mate, I've seen about 3. When he got there in the morning first, like looking, he obviously knew what I'd been doing out there. He rang me. He's like, I've seen 3 right on your zone. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. I was on him down the other end. So I give it till dinner. Anyway, he rings me. I've seen another 3 right on you. So I was like, right, I'm moving. Obviously, chucked something in there, threw everything in the van, flew round there. They're there. Do you know what I mean? I had my wraps. I'd fished the spot for weeks. You know what I mean? I knew it was quite a big area. I'd baited it. You know what I mean? I knew I could get a rig on the clip out there fishing. So round the sticks. I think at the time it was 38 3/4 wraps, 13 foot wraps. Just a hinge stiff link. I remember I put one out there on a fish one. I think it was Engage XP at the time. You'll CC more gear.
Yeah.
One out on a white one on a fish. And it must have been quite a flat calm anyway. Wallop out there. You know, 6 foot apart, good drops on each of them over quite deep water. And whack the marker float out about 4 rod lengths to the right of it. You know what I mean? Like say 20 yards to the right sort of thing on that clip. And then obviously knew it was just that far, and then just flirted 50, 60 baits in the area.
Yeah.
Got out of there and I caught one.
after about 2 hours. 32 pounder, mega fish. You know, rarely gets caught. Lovely one, little tiny pearly scales on him. Got the rod back out, and because of that, at the time, I remember getting the rod back out. Bit of a crosswind, a bit of a northerly coming down, and with it being quite late on in the year, all the milfoil was breaking up. So you know, if you were lucky to get your line down. More often than not, you'd make the cast perfect. And on a sink in your line, you only have to catch one piece of milfoil, keep that mono up. Obviously, more a collect. You put your tips up, and they were like, you know, and they're obviously getting dragged back, absolute nightmare. So on hitting the clips, it was literally running in the water with the chesties. You know, the rod's almost buried up to the reel, trying to get that mono down as quick as possible. And I'd not, obviously, on doing that, I forgot to take out the line clip. It must have been a few feet in whatever. So it's on my, I've had that fish. I've got the rod back out before dark. I didn't put any more bait out. Like I said, the spot, I've been seeing it, a lot of bait. Like a lot of buckets of particles, 10 kilo boil before you left. You know what I mean? A load of chops. Come back, it'd all be gone. It'd been getting it regular. And me and my mate stood there on dark, literally looking out. And again, no mistaking it, up to its wrist, chocker. We used to see it. We used to get caught a lot on a Saturday night. And I used to leave on a Wednesday. You would always see that thing show. If I saw that show on a Wednesday, like it's getting giddy, you know, excited, it'd be boshing, it'd be happy. More than not, you'd get caught a few days later.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, you'd see it, you'd get caught. And I've seen it show. We both seen it show. As it sort of come out, I've got chocker. And it's like 100%. We were both looking out there, both seeing it, no mistaking it. And it's probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. So it woke me up anyway. I'm up, pissing, whatever. And what was I doing? I think I heard my mate Ian next door, so sort of like gone for a wander over. And I'm halfway walking over to his brolly. I've just heard diddling. Delkins at the time. It's out the clip. Ran over, tips. Like I say, the bank's quite icy. Tips would be down. Rod's lifted up off it. Tick, tick, tick. Picked up the rod and it's just straight away going. Like I say, I'm using light mono. And then it's taking line. Stopped. And I'm like, what the fuck? Obviously, then I've clocked and realised it's on the line clip.
On,
Jumped into the water and it's just going. I can't get my finger behind it, because it's picking up momentum and it's going. Gone. Come back over my hook straightened. I'm surprised it didn't go on the lead or not with it being a light mono.
Oh, it was you.
No, it might hook straightened, yeah. Where I was fishing, it was. I'd hooked quite a few fish off that area. There's a big weed bed at the back of the spot, and they all just, tighten up, sit in the weed bed.
Yeah, he just kept
going. When you walk out to that clip and walk down the bank,
yeah,
you're like 20 paces before you're at the point of snapping. The stretch over that distance.
Yeah, of course.
That thing had gone through the weed bed,
the other side, yeah,
over the bar.
Yeah. Who knows?
I know in my heart of hearts.
You know, it's Choco.
I don't need to see that loss to know what it was. It was a big angry male that, on his first charge. Like I said, looked a lot of carp out there, and that one was a different gravy. Like when you hooked him. I couldn't say 100%. I know in my heart of hearts.
One you can though.
Oh yeah, one. I see him a couple of times. Moved on to him, and then playing it from the boat. Yeah, awful.
Oh mate.
Awful. Well, so that one definitely wasn't meant to be.
Obviously, mate, you were successful there. You caught a load of fish. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about there is pretty unique in terms of the whole boat and casting setup. The amount of times, even now when I'm fishing, especially over a depth of water, you sometimes have it in the back of your mind about how accurately you're fishing on those sort of small spots in the weed. For you, I know you did a lot of observation on there, a lot of finding spots, a lot of priming areas. But how did you get into a point whereby you gain the confidence fishing at that range on those type of spots, looking at them in the boat and then being able to sort of cast to them and make sure they're bang on, but then being able to do that when you get conditions? For example, you get crosswind. How did that vary things? Talk to me about how that all plays out.
Say when you're going out and actually like visually casting at H blocks, going out there, checking your rig, you like I say, you can be at it for hours. When you're re-putting rigs, like say back onto them spots, a lot of time I wasn't using braids. So you haven't, like with braid, you could put it on a paving flag every time. You hit the clip with braid, it's there. Monos, with getting to the range, you're dropping down in your diameter of monos. With that comes stretch. You whack, like you're trying to pick your spots by design as well. You are not going to put a rig on a spot 2 foot square, 180 yards with a 10-pound mono and a leader time and time again. You ain't going to do it. There's no way at all. So you're trying to design your spots to be quite narrow, but also like long.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'd try and bait them that way, or like adjust the spot by a bit of raking out there, or the way I'd bait them is to try and. So I had more to land on. Let's just try and say 8 to 10 foot by 2 foot would be perfect.
At what sort of range? This is mono fishing, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the Dinton was a real edge taking it to there because there wasn't a lot of lads fishing out at that range effectively over bait, should we say? You know what I mean? It's all good someone can braid up and wang out a choddy and pick off the odd fish.
Yes.
But to bait spots and consistently, catch one, rig back out there, catch one, rig back out there, but then we're talking about weather. It's all good fishing at 170, but, if that wind spun round to a northerly, a lot of the time I was fishing up against an island. You wind to get blown straight into the island, so that was a write-off. So that's that one spot gone.
Yep.
So therefore you had to have a reserve, fished off to the right, might only be 30 wraps. I had spots from there, literally from 25 wraps to 43 and 3/4 wraps.
And you'd vary that depending on conditions?
All them would get baited on a regular. You know what I mean? Just to keep the spots clean. It might not be much, you're talking 4 handfuls.
Yeah.
But, 4 handfuls of dust pellet keeps it turned over. And then it might be, I've had it where before, like big weather's come in. Honestly, you stood there with a rod for literally hours. You can hear that wind roaring at night. And you can hear it just sort of, you stood there for that long, you're in tune with the weather, you know what I mean? You can hear it coming. That little lull, 40 wraps, ding, bomb.
Jeez.
And it's them tiny little windows, you can get that rod back out there, sweet. Even in a bit of a crosswind. But like I say, you're hitting them just sweet. You can even sometimes feel that lid at the bottom. That was the edge, being able to do that. But again, you're never going to do that on them tiny, tiny spots. That's where obviously switching to the braid, talking about going away from the range game with the braid, you were able to fish them natural dinner plates in small spots, more than likely surrounded by quite thick weed, effectively. The amount of times you'd find them with your leading rod, it's all braid, 5 ounce lead, cast for ages, yet perfect tiny. Do the wraps, put it onto your mono, even 20-pound mono. Like I said, we're talking, I'm wanting to use 5 and 6 ounce leads on the minimum. So it's the stretch at that. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you can be adjusting it and you're casting at it for 20 times on the same clip, so you get that bump. If you hit it too hard, it's just going over, it's over gunning, hitting that Canadian, dragging it through, So that braid, real edge.
So anything
Anything up to 100 yards,
100
it's braid.
yards. Okay, braid for you.
Yeah, all the way. Because like I say, you're not just fishing. You've got them big spots on any lake, they're getting fished week in, week out, week in, week out. Everyone else just shows the marker out, feel a big pull of gravel, pop up. You're fishing 100%.
Yeah.
Great, we all catch carp off them spots. But when you sit and observe and watch, in their natural behaviour, there'll be natural zones. Especially from seeing loads of show in an area that's seeing consistent rod press, like rod hours fishing it.
Yep. And
you go out and have a look what they're doing. You've got tunnels and holes the size of bucket lids stuck down to shell. Well, that spot's done. You're in 7-8 foot of just real thick onion weed. They love that stuff. But all these, they're going to be very, very, very hard carp to catch. Even if you lower one down from the boat in one of them little craters, well, the goodness has been took out of it.
Yeah.
It'll be showing, but it'll be the next one.
Yeah.
So, it's reading what you're seeing. So if you're seeing them, if they're boshing like Billy in a corner feeding, there's a bite to be had there. There will be a spot there that will catch you a carp. You know what I mean? So it's them persistence with the lead. You know what I mean? Like a lot of lead work goes into it.
That's a feature, isn't it? And I'm guessing you're noting all these spots down.
Everything's very well documented. Yeah. If I lost my phone, I'll be
all in there.
I'll be in shit.
Right. In terms of like allowances, we're talking range fishing now. If you're fishing not to an island, because you said there about conditions getting up, but when you've been out and observed in a boat, if I'm fishing mono, which a lot of fisheries say you can't use braid as fishing rods. If you're chucking and a crosswind gets up and you're on one of those spots, what sort of allowances do you make for stuff like that? Do you have to take half a wrap or a couple of turns? How do you work that out in that process? Because you can visually go and see where you are on that spot, can't you?
Yeah.
How does that play out in a fishing context for you?
When you've got the joy of going out in a boat, so you knowing how to adjust.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you've got a big crosswind come pumping through, and it's how quick you can get that rod tip down. If you can clip something up, it's all good hitting the clip. If you can take all the stretch out of a mono, even in a crosswind, you whack it, you're taking all the stretch out of it. That tips to the if you've got a wind coming down from your right to your left.
Yep.
You whack it, your tips going to the side. If you took all the stretch out of that mono, that has been pulled straight tight. So if you've got your tip under on that on a tight line, you're on the spot.
Yeah.
No two ways about it. Obviously, if you're chucking his 70, big 50, 60, 70 mile an hour crosswinds, you see in the boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're trying to fish at range in them sort of conditions, unless you can use a boat, you're on guesswork.
Yeah.
You are looking. I've always found like 150, 160 yards. I've been adding as much as 2 wraps.
2 wraps?
In big winds. You know what I mean? I could never do that on my spod rod. Caught a real nice one, couldn't reach the spot. You know what I mean? And it was to the point where it was that windy, it was hitting the clip, and it had always just, you couldn't, you know what I mean? Even saying when you take all the stretch out and you fire your rod down, just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? The boat would just be picking up, could not get it down. Ended up, it wasn't even 2 wraps over, and I was putting pole elastic through, tying the pole elastic on a spigot, not clipping it up. So I'd hear that going through, then know it was time to stop it, come down, and that pole elastic had settled perfect. Then I knew I had 6 foot to work in. But, a couple of attempts later, bang, here it come through, tighten up to it, the bobbin, big heavy weights from the bobbin, pulling it round. We got a direct line straight to it, big heavy lead. Yeah, I had a 6. Like I said, we had that marker elastic then as a gauge.
Gee.
But then you have a cut one.
2 wraps is a lot, mate.
I say that's extreme. In extreme conditions. Yeah. More often than not, 6 foot, 12 foot, like crosswinds with a 10-pound mono. And I'd say, there's a lot. You can say a 10-pound mono, a lot of monos are very different.
Of course they are. There's a lot of difference.
A lot of the time when I was using the old carp line, it was a really cheap line. You could replace it every other bloody week or whatever.
Yeah.
Quite thick in its diameter though, with that strong, but not really, really stretchy. It was it was good.
Good in between.
Yeah, it was sound.
That is interesting because I think that's always key at night, especially like we haven't got a lot of people don't have the sort of fortune to go out and see exactly where their rigs are lying. But when those conditions get up, to be able to effectively not only fish in that range, but make sure you're fishing that spot over that bait. Yeah, that's the difference between catching them and not, isn't it?
Consistently as well. Like I say, not just catching one. When you had them opportunities arrive, if you had 3, very rarely would you be fishing 2 rods to a spot. There'd be like individual spots. So if one of them rods went, not only did you have the other ones in the game, not having to worry about disturbance in them areas, you're all trying to fish them in different areas. If you could get that rig back out on that spot, the chance of another bite was good. So if you had a couple of spots go off, that's how you were working your numbers so high, Yeah. You're having some trips, 10, 13, 11 fish. Not on Dinton.
Yeah.
But, it's exhausting because there's no engine, it's all rowing, all range, back into, if you're up all night, you're getting no sleep in the day because it's a very, very busy park and you're right on the path. So, I'm not joking. I've left there 3 days on about 4 hours kit before.
Ooh.
Dying. Literally. Exhausting. So, like I say, everyone's got its perks on it.
It's interesting. And also range work there. You're talking about some proper ranges to hit a lead at, aren't you there? Like,
the further you went, the more bites you got.
Yeah.
You take it to, like I say, a lot of people effectively going out the boat, dropping blocks and putting a rig out there effectively. It's 120, 130, 140. It's a long way, 140 yards to do it consistently. Don't forget it's a weedy pit as well.
Yeah.
You can't go out on the boat at night. So a lot of the time I was using up to say 36 wraps. I'd be using like 15-pound mono. You know what I mean? So 5-ounce leads, little up baits, a little bit of tubing and just blasting them, yeah.
That's some chucking, mate.
But you had that, you know what I mean? It was a little bit heavy. You had the security, you picked the rod up, it weeded you.
Give it a bit, yeah. Fair dues. You referenced Dinton there, similar style, Black Swan especially. Yeah. But again, I said at the very start of this that you've been on a lot of places before they were sort of as known or the stocks were as known or had the same sort of profile. Dinton, you guys, you went on their early doors, didn't you?
Yeah, with Black Swan again from fishing. It's actually a lake not far from here, Neighbridge. Met a couple of chaps on there. My mate had a ticket for years. Again, it's before it sort of boomed, so getting a ticket was a little bit easier, especially a gold ticket.
Yeah.
Obviously a little bit more expensive, but gives you the options. I actually turned down my first ticket, not from sort of Simon directly, wording my mate up, oh yeah, come on, if you can get one, see what you can do. Next week, one there if you want one. I've actually got plans. Have one next year, mate. Anyway, rang him, any chance? I'll have a word. One there if you want it. So I got it,
Yeah.
I think at the time it was 770 quid or something like that. Like that obviously give you White Swan, Black Swan, a couple of other waters that they've got as well.
Right.
But them obviously being the main ones. At the time, obviously, I knew of Petty's Common, these two linears, Spike and Saddleback. They were low 40s at the time.
Were they?
Yeah. Remember on my second trip, a lad had actually braced them, both £41. Yeah, hell of a brace.
That's a brace and a half.
So yeah, you had Petty's Common, you know, a mega long, rarely caught sort of 40-pounder, the unit, mid 40, and then just an incredible stock of, you know, a high stock as well. There's like 400 carp in the lake.
How big is Black Swan? I don't think I've ever even walked Black
Like
Swan.
90 acres.
90 acres.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know, it's very broke up. You got bays, range, you know, it offers absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Very rich. Majority of the water is very shallow, so no dead water, as we say, you know. Very, very rich in naturals. Ridiculous. Never seen anything like it for the snails.
Really?
You leave, you pull your boat out in the morning, and honestly, you'd fill a maggot tub with how many just clinged onto the bottom of your boat overnight.
Wow.
Yeah, majorly a big part of their diet in there. That's why they're so big. Yeah, mega rich place.
The keys to your success on there? Obviously, there was a video on there pretty early doors about the campaign, about your time on there and fishing it. Was it similar in terms of the lynch stuff, going out finding spots, and if in what spots were doing the action? Because you've got a lot of naturals and another competition to compete against over there.
A lot of the bites on, like referring to Black Swan, like I said, we had 2 islands out there at range. You know, I think it's like 220 yards to the actual, like the middle. So even fishing at 170s, you know what I mean, pushing on to 180s, the right conditions, there's still that safe zone out there. So there's a lot of carp always in that area. Safe to say there'll be always carp in that area.
Yeah.
You see them showing out there. Some mornings more so than others. But we haven't been, like, on any safe zone on any lake, there's carp in it.
Of course.
So we've been able to get in them swims on a consistent, get spots going, get bait going. You know what I mean? I'd be maxing out, like I say, about 180-ish was my furthest clip that I fished. But you'd be baiting back to 200. You'd be feeding them out there. Do you know what I mean? Trailing it back. Not filling it in when you left, but being able to give a good food source when there's fish never too far away. I thought if I can just keep getting consistent bites, surely the right ones are going to turn up. Never actually turned out. I mean, I caught some mega ones out there. You know, I ended up catching Petties out there. I'm pretty sure I lost one of the linears out there. Well, I did. I see it show. I had the bite, got flat rodded. Then my mate had it 2 weeks later, the big tear in its mouth.
Oh.
Yeah, it was him. But yeah, and I caught quite a few of the bigger ones from that zone. But the linears had a real habit of getting caught out the bay. Like the bay depths down to about 20 odd foot in there. You know, the rest of the lake's quite shallow, 5, 6, 7 foot.
Yeah.
Very different area. Big shelves, drop-offs, humps, plateaus. You know, it's all going on in there. There's even a collapsed old like scaffolding towers, structure, everything. Imagine the goldfish bowl. That's where the castle is. You know.
Yeah.
So there's always carp in there. But for the amount you see, again, it's your line angles. You know, you're going over a lot of deeper water and stuff. For how much you see fizzing and how many shows are in there, not a lot gets caught. In comparison to
What you're seeing.
one autumn, I think there was, I'm sure, I may be out, but only by a couple of fish. I think there was 42 fish out from the start of September. You would not go a day in the bay without seeing mass fizzes, mass shows, full of anglers. And out of them 42 carp, I caught 36 of them.
Wow.
In between the islands. Yeah.
Out of the 46 carp, you caught 36 of them.
Yeah, that's what I counted up. I knew had been caught out of the lake in that period of time.
Were they just on naturals? Is it
Big, all show no go, as they say in the bay, you know. But because you're seeing them, 30-pounders, 40-pounders walloping out, fizzing each week, there's got to be a way to catch them. You do catch them, but for how many you see, you should catch a lot more.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. But it's, you know, they're showing there all day, and it's like at night time, I'd start getting my bites literally 10 o'clock at night through till probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. Would be that window. They're obviously coming up onto that shallower ground, you know, feeding a lot harder. And yeah, they're just them firmer areas, big snail beds out there. They do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, like little farmers, they are in that car.
Yeah. Mate, bait, it's obviously a key feature that in this type of fishing, you're very versatile, I know, but bait is an establishing baited areas is a key theme that runs through at least the 2 venues we talked about and other venues subsequently as well. But for you, bait, now, obviously you've got your own range of pop-up in terms of hook baits and stuff that you've worked with the year. It's obviously quite a key thing. Is it quantity? Is it quality? Do you have preferred mixes? Do you have preferred types of bait? What goes through your head when I say that type of bait fishing? If you could, let's say, do it on a water that you've never seen before where you know there's good fishings, what are your considerations?
They're a lot easier to catch if they eat boilies. If you can get them eating boilies, if you can get carp eating whole boilies on a regular, they're the easiest to catch over them. There's no two ways about it. You know, when you start including seeds, mass baiting with seeds, you know, it's fun and games. They can be over you for hours. You know, they really can. Obviously, you've got to adjust your rigs to suit little tiny outlinks, like big wrap overs, you know.
What's a wrap over here?
Like a big wrap over inline, like a 6 ounce wrap over inline, little tiny uplink. Obviously, they're not much between their mouthfuls, are they? So, like I say, adjusting the presentations to suit.
Yeah.
But, you know, them big carp are big for a reason. The greedy buggers, they love the food. And again, from visually going out in the boat and seeing how much they can get through. I mean, I can remember, you know, baiting my fishing on a couple of kilos of boilies a night on Redesmere. You know, still anything 4 kilo boilie for the weekend, sweet. But then you start seeing the old lads with like being 7 and 8, and you'd be like, that's a bit extreme, isn't it? It's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They get through it so much. I mean, even on, like, you go onto some lakes, even on this little pond, 5 acres, we've got 25 fish over 30 pounds in here. Some of the, like, you know, you're spomming out there for an hour or so, you know, put 5 kilo boilie out. You have 2 bites, it's gone. Literally.
Yeah, clear you out.
It's gone. But again, you know, it's a set. Every water's different, isn't it? You know, I'm sure if you went on to Stoneacres in the autumn, certainly from what I saw when I fished it, you go on there in the autumn and then all of a sudden boilies would start rotting all over the lake. You know, you'd see patches where they were getting left all over the lake. You know, sometimes ruining spots. Because it's just a massive mouldy bait. You used to have like this jelly, like PVA, and it's melted, hanging over the baits. Really weird. But it happened quickly, you know, in the case of sort of 2 weeks, once that water temperature sort of dropped. They were still feeding, though. You still catch them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it certainly wouldn't be boilies on the gravel. Still catch them on boilies, but like a little bit of crumb, thought about, mixed with a little bit of maggot in the silt where they were having it off at night. You see the little craters. You know, they're telling you what they're doing. It's just reading it and applying, do you know what I mean? Obviously, what you've learned over the years to it.
For you, when you're coming into sort of, I don't know, this time of year, autumn-wise, there is that whole thing about the big feed up. Is it something that, I don't know, is it something that you really sort of see happening and go towards, or are you always sort of more of a sort of a careful, see how you go approach with regards to bait?
It's where you're fishing and what you're fishing for. You know, if you're fishing a pond with very little weed and the naturals aren't as present as, say, a weedy pit, them carp are going to be a lot more dependent on boilies and anglers' baits. You know, if you've got a pond full of big ones and then you've got a couple that are even bigger, you know, you'll be able to get through some boilies. Like I say, it's nice, easy fishing, and it pump loads of boilies out, a couple of inges or a couple of big snowmans, wallop. Then you're fishing for them pits, you know, that are full of natural food, full of weed. Them carp are not, you know what I mean, reliant on anglers' baits.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Swan, they know full well what bait is. Caught them over loads of bait, caught them over boilies, caught them over everything. I've done a number of trips on there through August, September, going into October, where you are clearly on, in a bay, like a little bay, you know, when you're flicking them out in front of you, 20, 30 carp, ripping the hell out of the area. All over it, showing, big sheets of bubbles going on. I had 3 trips in that area with that going on literally every day. Hooked 1 fish, I lost it.
Wow.
You know, you're just thinking, what are they doing? They are just... Any other lake I've ever fished, you know, if I'm on fish like that, you catch them.
Of course you do.
Obviously, you can't go out in the boat because they're there, so you don't really want to see what they're doing. So you kind of, like, resulting back to old clips that you know, which are likely going to be more... Do you know what I mean? So you kind of, in them situations, mate, if they're tuned into naturals, even to the point before they got banned on there, I mean, they got heavily used, but in that bay, fish fizzing all over me, 2 pints of red maggots, 2 pints of casters, a couple of wafters over the top, you're thinking...
Got to be. Nothing.
It was still there when I went over the week after.
You're joking.
In the boat, no? You see it there? Like, obviously...
And they've showed all that fizzing and everything over you.
All over you. They are just preoccupied on sieving. Obviously, bloodworm, snail.
Did you try bloodworm over there?
To be honest, no.
No?
I mean... Like I say, they're on you. You're fizzing. I mean, I wasn't even baiting then. You know what I mean? You literally...
Yeah, they're just on. Yeah, exactly.
They're there. You know what I mean? You're just trying to trip one up, literally. Quite often, tiny bit of emp, you know, just trying to get a bite. in them sort of situations, and then you break away from it. But the whole lake might do. You're talking of a lake with 400 carp in it. There's a lot of carp.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a lot of good anglers as well fishing there.
Yeah.
September, October. I mean, yeah. End of October going into November, I managed to string something together and got 8 or 9 bites from an area. But you're talking 5 or 6 sacks of them, like a lot of graft to get that. To turn their heads from what they were doing took a lot.
Not bad.
A lot. Yeah, a lot, yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
But, before that little string of maybe 5 bites in 6 weeks, 7 weeks, on a pit where there's some good anglers, 3 nights a week in, week out.
Yeah, that's good going,
It's
mate.
a lot of graft, do you know what I mean? For very little. That's how much they just tune into them naturals.
Yeah, but that's still good going from you to turn it round, mate, and get those bites ultimately at the end.
Nice common at the end of it, yeah. Lovely old, real long one. It was the last of the big commons to sort of catch out there as well, so we could have picked one.
Oh, touch.
But yeah, no. My arse went, I thought it was the big linear when it hit the surface. And I thought it was an area he had habit for as well, going into the autumn. I'd heard a big one out there, and managed to string a few bites together. One morning, I busted off. You know the difference when you up one.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good one. And this common, he's jet black, 43 £, but when he hit his back, his surface, his little dorsal, I thought I could see the spike. I was like, I've got it. But no, it's a common.
Good enough, mate. I'll take
Yeah,
that
no,
second prize.
yeah, mega. If I could, like I say, if I could have picked one, it would have been that one on the common side of things. But yeah, mega.
Talk to me, hook baits. Obviously,
Yeah.
I reference there, obviously you've got your own now that
Yeah,
are
the molds.
around,
Yeah.
but you've been doing that for a long period of time, customising your own hook baits, having your own sort of...
Yeah, I've always rolled my own up baits.
Have
Again,
you?
It probably goes back from early Redesmere days. You'd be surrounded by loads of lads with their own little specials in the tubs,
Yeah.
I mean, like a couple of the old mixes are still used today. But mulbs, yeah, they're just an all-time classic. I believe that they give me a massive edge on, fishing on Redesmere or anywhere really, but more so it came recognisable to myself on Redesmere, fishing over big beds of chop baits. Like to say, when I say big beds, 4 or 5 kilos of boilies.
Yeah.
All broken up, bits and bobs. So you'd have the massive traction of a big bed of bait there. Obviously, 5 kilos of crumb is kicking out 5 times more than a kilo of crumb.
Mm.
But then over the top with these super potent mulberry up baits. So you could put all this crumb out as the massive traction, then you got the super traction hook baits. I was convinced, within half the time they were going in the mouths before a standard one. You'd leave them out fishing for 2 or 3 days, wind them in, poof, mega, still smell them as strong as they went out. They didn't lose.
You don't think you can over-flavour them or there'd be too...
It's not the flavour levels, it's the longevity in the flavour. You could literally put some of the flavour neat on your hand, wash your hands a million times that day. You go to bed that night, sniff it, you're going to get it.
Yeah, okay.
There's not many flavours out there that do that, but yeah, that's certainly one of them. And obviously very good in silt. It's not taking on any sort of tainted scent. But yeah, sort of combining that more bait with them up baits over the top, I started to catch a lot more fish. Quite a few more. I've been noticing, like they'd hit that bait, you'd have 3 or 4 or 5 bites. Equally, take it onto Black Swan, you'd have them super little. They blended in really, because of the range work. You wanted to go down to, you ain't going to chuck a 20mm snowman out there.
No, smaller.
A little 11, 12mm. They were rolled just to take the weight of the size 4s. So they just sit like a little claw, literally, poof, just down nice. And they stay like that for probably 24 hours. But obviously the rods weren't in much longer than that. They were getting redone or hopefully a bite. So yeah, I think it came a real edge on there.
Yeah.
Obviously you didn't have your traditional shop tones of pop-up, shall we say. Pink is a pink, yellow's a yellow. I'd always, like I say, we've rolled on my own for years. I'd sort of played around with tiny little bit of colouring in that and, quite pastel-y sort of up baits, in between tones, and definitely found it to be quite a bit of an edge.
You find that sort of like more washed out, pastel-y type.
That pink, I mean, it's bang on now, but that pink that comes in them pastel tubs is the one. A lot of my friends say so, they notice that colour, especially on them gravel pits.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I've found that definitely fishing at Redesmere.
Like you look at a lot of these underwater things. I mean, it's not goo like pink.
Yeah, no.
But that turn to an alternative bright one. I mean, it's done in its time, a million times, isn't it? You think you give them all this credit, they're eating one that looks completely different, and every time they eat that one, they get a hook in the mouth.
Yeah.
But I think, just with it being so low to the bottom, so delicate, little up bait, fishing over a lot of bits and bobs, little bits of broken boilie, pellet. You know, it's an 10, 11, 12 miller.
Yeah.
It's going in quick. You know, I'm sure they're searched out quickly amongst a massive bait.
Yeah.
Which obviously gives you an edge. Can you get more bites?
Do you ever go the other way, like match the hatch completely, as sort of as close to what you're putting in?
If I have to,
possible.
Only if I have to, in the sense of birds, shallow water.
Yeah.
If it's a mission getting the rods out, in the sense of if it's taking them out at night with a dinghy, or 2.5, 3 hours getting an upbait out there. Do you know what I mean? Weather conditions. Like I say, you used to put the old Tipex. You spend ages getting the bars, the rods on the bars.
Yeah.
And the coots obviously live on the island, but the bars are off.
Yeah.
You got a nice pink one on there. Go and see it. Obviously, it's first one needs having.
Yeah, that's
or a white
torture.
one.
Yeah.
Loads of times I've had it on fish, wallop gone.
Yeah, it's not a 20-yard chuck to get it back
No,
out.
no, you're sitting there, you know, rowing backward and forth, back. You're trying to land on a rod length bar, mono, like we were talking about, crosswinds. It's
Aggie.
Ag. Very much.
In terms of rigs, now you referenced your claw rig there, mate. That's been pretty synonymous with you in terms of that range work and that use of presentation. Did that come over a process of time of refining down to that? Is that something you sort of still fall back to now?
I probably use it for 90% of my fishing, to be honest. Again, a lot of it's using them bits and bobs, you know, them small food items. If it's not particles, chops, bits and bobs. So it kind of sits the bill, you know. If it ain't range fishing, you're fishing over them little bits and bobs. You know what I mean? You're trying to... A big daft boilie is going to look adrift over what I'm feeding them, if you like. So yeah, I am using them a lot, but I suppose the effectiveness of it, if you like, came from sort of, well, catching Kev's linear. I'd found a few... I'd been taken out by a wee bird, caught a tench or something had gone on, where I was unable to get my rods back out on the spots I was fishing. Big crosswind coming through.
Yeah.
Night left. I need to, you know, all the gear packed up in the van, sat up on foot. I think I was on like the third lap, you know. I need to find something that I can fish to close. It's windy. Load of weed on the back of the wind, pushed into the hump's corner, shot of the tree, bite mark, and Kev's. Only 2 fish there. Just the other side, there's a big gravel hump outside of a bivvy, you know, just an underarm chuck. Bit of weed, they're just behind it. Only 2 of them. And basically watched them, flicked a rig on there, just a tiger. Didn't even, you know what I mean, just like literally drilled it out, bit of cork, tested it in the edge, went down, lovely, sweet. Flicked it on there, little nugget on it, up the tree, couple of fucking tigers up there watching. Over the course of an hour anyway, Kev's come onto the spot, had a tiger, stopped, body language changed, got off. I thought, he's seen the hook. That's the only, in such shallow water, quite a warm, sunny day, back of the wind, I reckon he's seen the hook in that shallow. You know, if it sat on its side on the shallow bit, I thought, just his body language changed it anyway. He didn't spook off, but he's drifted off, joined him again. So I thought, I need to change that. So I didn't wind the rod in straight away, playing around with the bloody tiger and a hook, and I just kept trimming it down until it just literally went down, bang, like a perfect, like just like a little claw. When the opportunity was right, whipped the rod in, changed that over, flicked it out. It was a few hours later, but basically he come back on the spot and I caught him straight. You know, he literally bang, 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 got him. Yeah, just over £40. But then I thought, you know, I don't think I would have caught that fish if I hadn't made that little adjustment.
So yours sits. So essentially, you've got your coated braid, you've got a liner system, you've got your hook, and your hook sits with basically with the point on the deck.
Can you imagine if you're using like a big point with it?
Yeah.
The point of it's like the curve of the hook, if you like, to lay on the actual deck.
Yes.
The point is slightly, you know, because it's beaked, it's just up and away from the gravel, if you like.
Okay, yeah.
With how it's sat.
I was going to say dinking hook points, but if you had a straight pointed hook.
Oh, nightmare.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare. Obviously, you can fish it still or whatever you want to.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it actually sits like that. So I say the point's just slightly up and off. It's all about the situation of the D. If you're going to fish it on the D or on a slip D, you know, getting that right is into where it will sit. Obviously, if it's too short, it'll throw your hook up.
Yeah.
Giving it a little bit more length, obviously, it'll roll your hook over. So, yeah, it's just...
Where do you want that D? Like, roughly where your barb is on your hook?
I'm setting it sort of in between point and my barb.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And then again, if it's to slowly roll over, if the rig's had to be left out there for 2 days, and rather than it gone from its claw...
Sits on its side.
Gone to its side.
Yeah.
The second you pick that bait up, bang.
Turns.
You've got the hook flipping straight back over, yeah. Everyone's, you know, they're pulling them across the hand trying to get that position.
Yeah.
Constantly. It's ready.
Yeah, it's
Claw.
prone. Yeah.
The claw Jim's back.
Moving on from sort of bait to sort of probably what we're talking more recent times now, like with regards to your angling, where we're situated at the moment. I mean, at the moment you do sticky stuff, don't you? Do some filming and bits and bobs. You've got obligation there and thinking. But for you, we're in a beautiful lodge at the side of the Cotswolds. It's something a little bit new for you with regards to what you're doing here, mate. What's prompted this lodge? Why are we here and what's going on?
It was a bit of, how I came to know about the place, really. Obviously, been in the Cotswolds, I'd always heard of the lake.
Yeah.
And typical, left everything till last minute, looking for somewhere to go for the missus' birthday. Obviously, trying to bring around lakes. He's like, I'd like to go fishing. Never really got the chance to go fishing together, if you like. One of my mates had one of the lodges on here and at the back, and basically come down here for a bit of a holiday. Mega. Literally, we had a brilliant time. It was the end of March. I think we had something like might have landed 28 carp, lost an handful. Just ridiculous.
Good uns.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like a lot of 20 pounders.
Yep.
I think we caught 4 or 5 30 pounders between us. Had a nice brace of 33 mirrors.
Nice.
It was really nice, simple fishing, But quite shocked at the stock for such a little lake. And then sort of on, mooching around, spending a bit of time, clocked a little for sale sign in the window on one. And I just took a picture of it on my phone, jotted the number down. And I'd recently sold a house, had a bit of money land in my bank in between projects, and I was just like, I'm going to inquire about that lodge. Spoke to matey boy, and it just so happened how much money I had in my bank is how much money he was after for the lodge.
To be.
So yeah, we sort of strung things together, come down here, met up with him a couple of times, lovely bloke, sort of walked round, discussed it. He bought it for his son, who'd met what's now his wife, I think, and moved to Australia.
Right.
So he'd done nothing with it for years, He'd pretty much put a new kitchen in it, new floor. It was just sat here, they used it for the odd, if their friends were coming down, they'd put him in here.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's costing me money, really. I want to get rid of it. We're chatting away. Basically agreed on the price and, bought the lodge. But obviously with the fishing, it's, you can see here, 10 yards from the lake.
Yeah, so you've got
obviously lakeside. It's
a lodge with a couple of bedrooms, kitchen and everything, which is a nice lodge. You've done very well. I'm nice.
Home from home, innit?
Home from home, proper lodge.
It's done, I'd like to think it's done to a high standard.
A bit too good for a fishing lodge. And then you've got a lovely deck in, and then literally just 10 yards across the way, you've got a lake, which is days only. Is it 8 till 10
in the morning?
PM?
You can fish till 10.
And it's got a ridiculous amount of 30s. What's the biggest in there?
47 pound has been caught at.
Oof.
But going off, that was a spring capture. There was a couple we caught in the spring that have been out recently. They're 3 or 4 pound up. They're putting on the stacking it.
That's because you're filling it with bait, mate.
It's rich. You can see how weedy it is as well.
Yeah.
It's very weedy. But with that, it's very rich with natural food, and the fish are absolutely flying it on. So there's every chance, that big one, it might be 50 pound of it like this winter.
And you're fishing at the moment. Some people, but basically people can book it and come down.
Yeah, I'm doing it as I suppose it's a holiday let sort of fishing rental,
Yeah.
Come and have a few days. Obviously it's not just the fishing that's to do here. We've got indoor and outdoor pools, restaurants, arcades, climbing frames, badminton courts, tennis courts, basketball courts.
You said, mate, we could have gone.
I know, yeah.
You were giving the badminton hype big time earlier. You said you're pretty useful,
Don't ever
mate.
get me shuttlecock out.
Not on this podcast.
Offers a lot. It's not just the fishing. It ticks the boxes for sort of like a family break, missus, kids, rods out, as well as like the lads sort of fishing socials through the winter.
Yeah.
Obviously the lake's just there. Through the summer months between what is it now? From
April.
1st of April, 1st of April till the end of October, you're restricted to fishing about a third of the lake.
I've just read that sign, mate.
Yeah. Well, you have swans. Have you seen the swans?
I see. Yeah. The swan pedlos.
Pedlos, yeah. You've got pedlos that come on, occupy, obviously, for the holidays makers. So through the summer period, obviously you've got your kids' holidays and so on. So they take priority over most of the lake, restricting the fishing to a third of it.
Yeah.
But the winter months, sort of like the other 6 months, we can fish pretty much all of it, including right at the back out the lodge here. So, it's a case of, the last swim there where we're fishing now.
What's that, mate? That's
10, 15 yards?
That's if that.
Yeah. Obviously, you could fish there, no problem at all. But come November, 10
and
yards.
It's got a bit
away.
of winter form, isn't it? Because it's relatively shallow, isn't it?
It's very, very, very shallow lake, yeah. 5.5, 6 foot at deepest. That's the end that we can fish all the time. The other ends, pedlers are getting beached, 18 inches deep, 2 foot deep. So the area that you want to fish, definitely creatures of habit. Come down here at night, go back up there in the day. You've got, evenings and morning times are very good. Good chance for a bite after 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, typical day water.
So, mate,
it's your first 2 hours and your last 2 hours any day.
It's a good stock though, mate, isn't it?
Crazy for the size of the pond, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're not, and they're some mega looking carp as well. They moved around a few from the site, and a couple of the ones from the caravan park. Some real old sort of classic mirrors.
Yeah. Been
19, 20 pound for years, sort of in them lakes, put them into here. And there's some of the ones that are pushing through to 35, 36 pound now.
Yeah, and people can book it, can't they, mate? You've got Lakeside Retreat. I've seen that on
Insta.
We've
got an Instagram page going so far.
You're a social media manager for that as well, aren't you?
At the moment, yeah.
It's gone proper business as the old Gibson. I like this, mate.
So yeah, at the moment I've been taking all bookings, inquiries, sorting all that out. So yeah,
check out the page.
Yeah, check it out.
Fish look mega, mate.
There's some lovely ones, mate. Yeah.
What's the future for you then, mate? Just carry on with regards to your angling. Any waters, any fish that really. You're not that you'll say, because I know what you like, but there must be places that you put him graft into now.
Yeah.
Still got
the radar a little bit as well, so nice and quiet. Again, a bit of a random one. I'd seen the odd snippets and odd pictures of carp from this lake in particular. But it's the first time I've ever travelled north for my fishing. I'm a field away from Scotland, put it that way.
You said that's what
literally, yeah. At Aiden's Walls in the next field, literally, like from the lake. But with it being so close, it's right near the Saltwell Estuary. On big tides, the lake's up and down overnight. With it being on its level to sort of sea level, when you have a load of rain, it's being pushed up through the sediment at the bottom. So I'm sat there after a load of rain, and all the bars all of a sudden kicked off glowing orange, like Jaffa cake orange, like glowing, like all over the place. All clay bottom, all the sediment's being pushed up. So yeah, it's a very different pond, but very, very hung up on naturals in there. I had my first trip, it was probably early September. Caught one, but it's more a lad caught a 33 common, fat as hell. As if it's November, fat. He was like, they're done.
Yeah.
They've done their whole, like their feed up was done naturally. Quite a quiet, only 30 tickets. But yeah, mostly commons make up the stock. But a handful of real old special mirrors. One of them in particular,
mate.
That big black one. Yeah. He's £46 last capture.
That's ridiculous.
And for that area of the country as well, they're all of them in there, mate. Of every single one I've seen, big overslung mouths, jet black. It's gin clear. Apart from when all the sediment gets pushed through, it goes orange.
Yeah,
But yeah, gin clear, really, really weedy, really, really rich. Not loads of them. Renowned tricky fishing. So. Yeah, a bit of. I'm really enjoying it over there.
What's your thoughts? We mentioned naturals quite a few times, mate. What's your thoughts around that? If you have got a venue, there are a lot of venues, especially at certain times of year, whereby those natural larders are definitely being fed upon more than bait. Bait is not the call for it, or not on. Anything you've done? Anything you can do? What's your head?
Hemp's a good.
Hemp.
I've used a lot of hemp.
A lot of hemp, though.
Yeah, I've used a lot of hemp. Over the years, especially like say when snails, black swan used to go across there. Some of them silt beds that would open up early, sort of late autumn, should we say, early winter. They're alive. They're as if you have just tipped a sack of 15 ml hemp all over it, alive. So you're thinking a bucket ain't doing nothing.
Yeah,
like I say, you put a couple of sacks out there, but there's a lot of carp in there to respond equally. A couple of sacks in the wrong lake. A fuck spot.
Yeah, completely killed.
Yeah. And again, it's where you're applying it. I've done a lot of trips, heard them out there, saw them out there, pinned them down to where they were spending a bit of time. And then obviously applied that and
loaded it.
It managed to work. I left them to it for a couple of trips, though. Fed them and left them. And yeah.
Bait is a key, but hemp.
Bait is key, yeah. But again, the obvious maggots, casters. And it's not volumes of it. If they're doing something in an area,
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. I've definitely caught them on tiny little bags of
That's
maggot.
all you need.
Yeah.
If you can present something, they're already there feeding. Lovely. Just get a rig fishing and
Happy days.
you know what I mean? It is, again, it's reading it, and you get a lot of people that are just have to fish over bait. The good thing, obviously, with spots and bait, if you can turn them onto spots and baits, you're fishing for more than just that bite. Rather than just that one, you know, you're wanting 2, 3, 4, and they come over the course of the year. That's how you get your numbers. Constantly setting up for a hit, you know.
It's a bit of you. Why, and this is a question that's a bit random, I suppose, in the order of things, but why have you not done the trips abroad, mate? Why have you not done that whole...
I have done the odd trip abroad. Nothing...
Yeah, but not the same...
Nothing major, no.
Yeah. Why not?
I've got that very addictive personality in me, honestly. If I get a taster for something, that'll be me.
Is that you stopping yourself?
I'll be the young Steve Briggs gone.
Young Steve Briggs. That's it. Get Lauren, we're off.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. No,
Is that what it is? You just don't want to get
if I
yourself
took a
down
shine
that
to something
wormhole?
like that, yeah. No, it'd be... I'd love to do it. You know, I would love to do it. Again, if the opportunity arose, we talked of it with Dan and, you know, we'll go and do a trip over here, do a bit of filming. Yeah, I'd do it. Definitely, yeah. But
Is that Dan, the original... Busy, are we? Well,
very.
He'll love a trip abroad,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I spoke about it with Elliot as well. We talk of going to Germany and all sorts. Like, but you know, if like I say, if the opportunity arrives, I'd definitely be up for going somewhere like that. Again, there's a whole world out there, isn't there? When you look at some of the fish like Daryl's had abroad, and it's just phenomenal, isn't it? You know, you think you can see, like I say, probably like what he's done. He's gone and experienced that buzz and that everything's that little bit more raw in it. You know, you got a taster for it. You need that in your fishing, then.
Yeah, it's your buzz, isn't it?
Yeah. Next thing, we come to the lodge in France.
Yeah, come to the lodge in France. Do the next one. What about your thoughts on, like? I mean, it's a bit of a strange area, but you are an angler. You obviously got sponsors attached to you. We're at an age where potentially, especially a man of your ability and the photo album you've got and the pedigree of angler you are, you could make a full-time living just angling without any of these projects or without the sort of build projects that you do. You could completely go for it, be all over social media, do loads and make a really good living. There's no two ways about it. That is a potential in nowadays sort of climate. Why haven't you done that?
It's not me. I'm not gonna, you know, I've always just been me, kept it. I'm not much for all that social media and stuff like that. You know, I've got it. I use it a little bit, like I post a few pictures and stuff like that, but I don't like putting everything that I'm doing all over it. Do you know what I mean? I'd say I'm quite a private person.
Yeah, definitely.
In my fishing and in my personal life as well. You know, with comes this game's a lot of bitching, as you probably, you know, experienced yourself over the years. I'll just put it into context, really. I'd much rather just sit on the back foot and watch it happen, you know?
Yeah.
If you're not there, you can just go and do your thing and hopefully a little bit more quieter and just, you know, slip off.
It's your terms, isn't it? It's your terms.
It's always been on my terms. I'm not going to, if I don't enjoy doing something, I'm not going to do it. If something becomes a chore, then it's a job. Do you know what I mean?
This podcast.
Dragging a bit now, but no,
I
not
get
at all.
it, mate.
But it's, you know, like I say, it goes back to the graft that you put in, doesn't it? You know,
Of course it does, mate. I completely understand it and I completely respect it.
I wouldn't like to fish full time. I've had companies offer me, you know, we'll pay you this. What do you want? Go fishing. I wouldn't want to do it. You know, I love having my fishing.
How much we talking? What's the figure? You'd do it.
I wouldn't.
£1 million a year.
Obviously.
I wouldn't do it. Just putting it out there, guys. £1 million a year. How many ones?
Obviously.
I'm all
Who's
over
going to not
Facebook.
go fishing for £1 million a year?
Insta, Facebook, TikTok, got it all, mate. I'll dance on a decking.
I'll do you the floss on TikTok for £1 million.
There it is. We'll caption that up. No, but honestly, mate, thank you so much for letting me into this beautiful retreat. We've actually gone into darkness now. We've shot this afternoon, and you need to get a rod out because 10 o'clock's a curfew. The missus has got some food, but before I let you go, you've got to answer some quick fire questions, mate.
Go on.
You don't know these.
Go on.
You don't know any of it because you didn't call me for a plan, did you? You're like, just say what you want, ask,
Yeah,
talk
just
about
roll
what
up,
you
mate.
want,
We'll be
do
at
what you want.
midday.
If I don't want to answer it, I won't answer it. Fish only up north for the rest of your life or only down south? What's a long pause here, mate?
Down south.
Down south? You sold out the north?
Yeah.
Dreadful. Who are you? I'm joking. you've just landed a new PB. Who are you letting net it, and who are you got down to take the pictures?
I'd probably net it myself.
Net it yourself. I like that.
Yeah, I'd net it myself. So if when tits up, you can only bollock yourself, then, can't you?
Yeah.
Probably have to ring Dan for the pictures.
Well, boy.
Yeah, you can't knock him on a camera, can you?
He's good, mate. He's good. He's good. Drum and bass or country and western?
Drum and bass over country and western.
Terrible. Favourite venue, favourite era, and favourite carp?
Mary, probably the favourite carp from Redesmere. Era, probably I'd say when I was growing up on Redesmere, I think I caught a good last little snippet of carp fishing before it went boom, if you know what I mean.
Nice.
I mean, it's always been big. Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, early 2000s. So, then the learning, everything was new. You're a duck egg, you know what I mean? You're all learning. Like, you know what I mean? That learning process, that era.
Venue.
What was it?
Venue.
Redesmere.
Redesmere. Take me back. Who'd win in a fight, you or Scotty Lloyd?
I'd kill him.
Would you? Batter him?
I don't know about batter him. He's Andy.
You just said you'd kill him.
That's the end result. But it'd be a bit of a...
Right, let's get this charity boxing match up.
No, he's a good spin kicker, but I know his moves.
Is he?
Yeah, I know his moves.
He's out there, mate.
Yeah.
He's out there.
I showed him rigs, he showed me moves.
Your idea of carp fishing hell, what is it?
Busy lakes.
Busy
lakes just full of stockies.
Come fishing with me.
Well,
Myles.
yeah. Where we go? We'll have a laugh.
Yeah, exactly. 3 celebs you'd take fishing. They can be past or present, mate. You can bring them back.
Who would I take fishing?
Mm.
Who would I take fishing? I think Jason Statham would be quite cool to take fishing, wouldn't
Rock hard, mate. Sort
it? Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I mean. Do a bit of training, get ready for Scott. Prep that
Nice, nice.
up. Who else? Jim Kerry. He'd be quite funny.
Jim Kerry.
He'd be a right laugh, wouldn't he?
He'd be full on, mate, wouldn't he?
Celebrity. Then Elvis.
Oh,
And then Elvis, he could just sing while you're chilling, couldn't he?
on the decking, just playing guitar.
chilling. Yeah, but that'd be, I'm happy with that.
Nice. Fish only days or fish only nights for a season?
Only days I ate, not watching my rigs go out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Very quick in that answer. Final question. Night out on the bank or night in with the missus? It's both for you, isn't it?
Yeah, both. Yeah, we get
As an
both.
angler.
Yeah.
You quid's in.
Yeah, quid in
You've
both.
won.
But if we had to choose, I'd be out fishing, wouldn't you?
Brilliant. She'll listen to this. Well done, Lauren.
Burnt tea.
Yeah. Myles, mate, thank you very, very
It's been
much.
a pleasure.
Thank you guys for watching and listening. I'll be back soon with another podcast. Until then, the legend that is Myles Gibson. Thank you very much. I need to get you back on because we've not talked about half of it. Snaggy pit or anything.
Oh, no, we'll
get
do
you
it.
back on. But
Yep.
thank you, mate.
Pleasure.